All right, I think we'll get started. Um, Everybody else that had registered that isn't here yet can just join us when they're able to. Like I'd mentioned before, the session is being recorded. So it will be made available a couple of days after this meeting, just in case you want to rewatch it, in case you miss any parts, in case you want to rewatch certain parts. So that will be available. There'll be some slight editing put in place, but I guess just everybody be mindful that it is being recorded. So ask that everybody keep themselves muted, unless maybe trying to answer a question or asking a question. The chat is available to everybody to post questions. I'll try to monitor that as best I can. And like I'd said, we have 30 people on the call right now. There were roughly 60 people that had registered, so there should be a few more people popping in. And I think about 40 of those were new officials. So I guess with that said, my name is Mike Thill. I'm the primary referee coordinator for the Community Soccer League that comprises Sheboygan. So, and I assign referees for Sheboygan, games hosted in Sheboygan, Sheboygan Falls, Kohler, Howards Grove, Oostburg, Cedar Grove, Belgium. Elkhart Lake has their own assigner. That's John Godbert, and Manitowoc has their own assigner. That's Tom Bartlemy. So Kohler, Howards Grove, Sheboygan, Sheboygan Falls, Oostburg, Cedar Grove, Belgium. Sheboygan Falls. So that's some important information. Once this session is complete, and I guess what this allows you to do is officiate games in the Community Soccer League. If anybody has interest in officiating games in the select leagues or academy league, that's a different training or certification that's required. There's still some training opportunities there. To complete that training, if you wish, it's a 16-hour investment, and right now it's pretty good. There's a promotion going on, really trying to generate more referee interest just in the state. But if you complete that course, it's about $70 cost, I think $30 if you're an adult, extra for a background check. But the state reimburses that $100, and then you also get a $100 referee kit, basically along with that, all for free. So trying to generate more interest there. If you have questions, I did complete that earlier this winter, maybe almost spring. So otherwise, I'll add all of you to my referee email group list, and then you'll start receiving communications on somewhat of a regular basis, just different maybe points of note, and then also about game assignments. So again, completion of this course tonight, it should go pretty close to 9 o'clock. Will allow you to officiate games in the Community Soccer League. After completing it, there will be an availability link form that we send out, link to a Google form, and you'll supply for the different game dates that we have available, if you're available that weekend. And I can show you that. So that's how I'll learn about your availability. And then a week before that weekend is when game assignments will come out for all of you. So just now that this has gotten bigger, it's harder for me to schedule and assign everything for the entire season up front for all weekends, and things change a lot. Games get rescheduled that kids are playing in. Every now and then, one or two people get hurt, or whatever ends up happening, hurt in their games, injured, so they can't do it. Different things come up just in people's personal schedules. So kind of go week by week, and the idea is that you'll reply back if those game assignments work for you. So it's important that everybody replies back, and then that's where I go from there throughout the course of the week, trying to fill everything up. So again, that's a little bit of background. Also, what we do is a referee shirt and whistle will be provided to each of you if you need it. Some people maybe already have their own, they're returning referees. But anybody who needs a referee shirt or a whistle, we'll have a time that I'll schedule for people to stop by and pick up those materials. And then I just end up deducting $5 for the whistle, $5 from the shirt from your paycheck at the end. So again, referees get paid at the end of the season rather than week by week, because like I said, there's just a lot of games out there, and that would be a lot of admin overhead. So the schedule starts, the first game of the season is April 16th. And Saturday, so April 16th, and I'll put all of this in an email to all of you. So you can jot it down if you want, but April 16th is the start of the season. And then April 29th through May 1st, that weekend is right now scheduled to be the community league soccer tournament, where all teams would participate. So that'll be like an all-day Saturday, all-day Sunday affair. And the last game of the season is going to be June 4th, as it currently stands. So no games on Memorial Weekend. So it'll be a 6-weekend season plus the tournament. So that from a scheduling perspective, referees. So I think that's it. Are there any questions on any of what I've said so far? So there's one question in the chat. Will this organization hire us to ref? Yes. So again, this training does in no way, I guess, bind you to officiate. So some people on here are just kind of here to check out the message and hear what it's all about. And, then they'll make a decision as to whether or not they want to do it. When you fill out that availability online, that's really what will let me know that you're interested. If you don't show up on there, you still may get added to the email list. But otherwise, I have no way to, know when to assign you games. And like I said, I will keep track, since I'm doing the majority of the assigning. Elkhart Lake ends up paying their own referees, those that referee in that community. Manitowoc assigns their referees, but they I end up paying everybody as well. So they kind of let me know who's officiated what games. But if I'm assigning you games, I have the master list of who's worked what games. And so I'll compute everybody's pay based on the pay rates that we have set. In the past, again, when it was smaller, we would have everybody sort of send in, here are the games that I worked, and I would have to wait for everybody to turn in their sheets. So it ended up being me, and I was double checking things anyways. So just works a little bit better this way. All of you more than welcome to kind of keep track along the way. Every now and then I may make an error. So good to kind of have that double check. So that's how getting paid works. It's at the end of the season. It'll be probably a week, probably let's say 2 weeks after the last game. So somewhere in the middle of June. It'll just take a little bit of time for me to go through everybody, because there ends up being, I think in fall there were 80 officials or so that I need to compute pay for and kind of go through and have checks issued. So the checks will be issued and come in the mail. Okay. I guess with that said, maybe a little bit about me. Like I said, I'm the primary referee coordinator for the league. And then I'll work with Manitowoc and Elkhart Lake a little bit as needed. I will pass along everybody from those communities to those referee assigners. And when you fill out your availability, one of the questions it will ask is, which communities are you interested in refereeing in? So you can mark, I'm willing to work in, manage all of the above. To know that, or you're only willing to work in the community that you're residing in. And then that makes it easy to helpful to assign things out. But otherwise, for those of you that are here, maybe in the chat, why don't you just write your, let me know your experience with soccer. Are you a current player? Are you a coach? Have you ever refereed before? Maybe just jot that in the chat for me. So rather than going around the group, that ends up taking a lot of time, maybe 15 minutes to go through that. So. Okay. And it's really good to have kind of a cross section of people. It's good to have people officiate that are not current players, because when those players are all playing in their own games, they have game conflicts sometimes that they cannot officiate. So it's good to have people participating from different teams if they're a player, from different levels, and then also sometimes if they're not players at all. So okay, good. I can check that out a little bit closer, kind of after the meeting. Let me just check some things. I'll just share a little bit about myself. Like I said, in this role, I've been a referee assigner for it's probably close to 15 years. 15 years already. I started. I played soccer as a youth, kind of growing up in the recreational league. I played in high school, and it was in high school when I had my first experience as a referee. So much like this, kind of email went out. Well, I guess probably not an email, but the coach was soliciting referees to help out with the local league. So a few people from the team. That's how we kind of got started. So had my experience in high school doing that, and then eventually found myself in this role, and officiate kind of when the need arises as well in this league. So have my USSF certification, have regained it. I've had it in the past, let it lapse, those sorts of things. So current on that. Learned about a few more rule nuances that are there. So there are a few new rules different from what there were in the fall that were posted. So we can kind of go through those as well. So all right, so great. So those are kind of some of the introductory things, just some of the admin stuff. And I guess now the course otherwise is really sort of divided into two main aspects. First is, I guess, just being prepared as a referee. What does it take? What kind of mindset do you need to have to have a positive experience, both yourself and those the games that you're officiating? So it's really being prepared, the mindset you have to be in. And then second, the second half of the meeting, we'll get into rules and some of those particulars and the nuances of them. Like I said, many of you, it looks like you are current players, or you've played in the past, or you maybe coached or have some experience with the game. The main thing that I want everybody to maybe realize is that oftentimes as a player, you don't have to know the rules as well as the referees do. The referees have to know them much better. Oftentimes as a player, especially if you're a youth player, younger than high school, or even in high school, oftentimes you're relying on advice from your coach about a particular situation, or even direction from the referee. Hey, is this indirect or direct? Can I kick the ball now? All of those sorts of things. Whereas a referee, you just need to be dialed in a little bit better, and have a greater understanding of those things. So referee. Okay, so in the chat, if people would write in your current roles as coaches and players, what are your expectations of referees? So when all of you, if you're a coach or if you're a player, yeah, and you arrive at the field and you're going to be playing a game, what are your expectations of the referees? So I'm seeing some good things: make good calls, be fair to both teams, be friendly. That's underrated, right? Accurate calls. Good. Those are some good answers. So I'll share a few that I have written down myself. Be fair to both teams. Be consistent. Blow the whistle loudly. Be active and engaged in the game. Call fouls, and to keep players safe. So those are some of the things that I had jotted down, and a lot of those showed up in the chat, which is great. The reason that I asked that question is that really those are the behaviors that all of you should be modeling and striving for out there. You want to be active and engaged in the game. You want to look like you're happy to be there. Not that you're, walking slowly and shuffling your feet and twirling your whistle around. You want to blow your whistle loudly. You want to be there on time before the game starts. Anybody who's a coach or a player, if your referees aren't there on time and it's getting close to game time, you're wondering, where are we going to have them today? Are they going to be here? And to keep players safe, to call fouls when they exist. Those are all very important things, to be fair to both teams. So whatever is you're considering a foul for one team, it should be the same for the other team. Those are all very important things that all of you should be kind of thinking about and be aware of as referees. So all of those things leave either good impressions, good first impressions, or bad first impressions, and really are going to have an effect on if you're going to have a good experience as a referee during the course of the game. So good. So that's the first thing. All right. So there's a referee checklist. So one of the things, we have referee materials available on the club web, on the Lakeshore United FC website. So I'll put that out there, and right now I'll share the documents. There's a few documents that I've updated, I'll say today, with some of the latest and greatest, and they've not quite been posted yet, but they'll be out there soon. But let me share my screen and go over this one. Okay, so can everybody see my screen? Let's see if this works if I drag it over here. That does not work so well. Oh wait, did that work? That does not work. Okay. So can everybody see the Community League referee game checklist? Okay, great. So again, I can make it a little bit bigger, so nobody has to strain their eyes or put their face up against the screen. But here's kind of a helpful checklist of things to remember to bring to the game. And again, this is being a referee. A good referee is about, like I said, knowing the rules really well, but just kind of being prepared. And so all of this helps. So first, make sure to bring your whistle to the game. You want to make sure to bring your watch, a wristwatch that you can use to keep time. Don't want to keep time using a phone. Red and yellow cards, because what do people think if you're using a phone to keep time during the game? They think you're checking your messages, right? And not paying attention. So make sure to have a wristwatch Can easily buy one for probably $8 at Walmart or something like that. Red and yellow cards, if necessary, that's really only for the older groups. Something to write with, to record the score. Your referee shirt, you should be wearing that to help people identify you as the referee. Coin for the coin toss, maybe a copy of the rules that we'll be going through later. If you want to do a quick check, either before the game or if you want to do a check at halftime, maybe regarding something that had occurred. Directions to the fields and your field assignments. So if you want to get to your game on time, you have to know where the game is that you're assigned. And it might be as easy as, okay, if you're working in Cedar Grove, Belgium, okay, well, which complex is it at? Many of the communities have more than one site that the games are at, depending on the age group. Duffel bag for your personal property. So don't get to the field that you're going to be working and just kind of toss your stuff on the ground. Your car keys or your phone, don't throw that stuff on the ground loose. Make sure that it's in a bag. Otherwise, there's a good chance that one of the teams or one of the players from one of the teams might mistake it as theirs and take it with them. All that has happened. Game card to record your notes. So I will also have game cards for everybody to use, just kind of small index cards where you can record the score as it's going along and record anything else. Schedule of games. I guess maybe this is a point too, for the game cards to record your notes and the scores. Something we started doing this past season was asking all of the referees to report scores back. And there was a link on the website to be able to do that. And that was done so that the league could have an understanding of maybe what the environment was like out there. Are games competitive or are games kind of lopsided and not competitive? So it maybe helped us just understand what that looked like. This spring, we are taking some of that information, just how teams did in the fall, and planning to create pools within divisions. So if there's a few teams that won most or all of their games, we're planning to have them play against each other. And if there are teams that didn't win many games at all, or maybe no games, to have those teams that didn't win as many games play against each other so that the games can be more competitive. So that's important. We've asked the coaches for that information back. Kind of the referee reporting was a little bit spotty in the fall. It was just kind of a new thing that we were working with. You also want to have a schedule of games that you're working. So oftentimes when you're assigned games, at least if I'm doing the assigning, you will have a minimum of 2 games, 3 or possibly 4 games. Generally, they're all consecutive. Once in a while, for maybe some of the older referees, more experienced, those that can drive, those that are willing, you may work in one community or location for, let's say, 9 and 10:30, and you could have a noon game somewhere else. So there's some of that's occurring just to kind of fill all the spots. And oftentimes that's better than, I think people appreciate that more than saying working just the one game. People generally want to work at least 2 games, maybe 3 games to kind of make this worth their while. And then it's good to have your referee coordinator phone number. So for many of you, that will be me, and I can pass that out again with the kind of email summary that I send all of you. But some reasons why you would want or maybe need that is if you're working with somebody and your referee partner isn't showing up. You may want to know, like, hey, have you heard anything that this person's not coming? Or all of a sudden you get there and you find there are no teams here. What happened? Or there's one team missing. Or the list goes on and on. So oftentimes with that, communication in this whole process is very important. If something changes in your schedule, let me know as soon as you know it, that you can't work your games. Please accept your games as soon as you see them sent out. If everybody accepts or rejects their game assignments the first day that they come out, then it gives me a lot more time to plan throughout the rest of the week to fill everything up. If I'm finding things out on Friday, the day before the games, it makes my life a lot more challenging. So please do that. But referee coordinator phone number, again, for me, I would say text probably works best rather than leaving a voicemail. So then I don't have to go through and listen to however many messages there are. If sending a text message, please just include your name with it. I don't necessarily have all 120 referees or whatever we'll end up with plugged into my phone. So help me by providing some detailed information about, you know, who's the request and kind of what some of the particulars. And I'll get back to it as best I can. But I guess just know and realize that oftentimes when it's during the course of the game, so once games have started, oftentimes I've been officiating as well this past season, so my availability is going to be limited as well. And that's when working with coaches and your referee partner become important as well, just to kind of make the best of maybe whatever odd situation you find yourself in. And not to scare anybody off, you know, that's by far the exception. You know, many times, yes, both teams are there. The referee is there in plenty of time. All of that stuff goes smooth. But there may be situations where all of a sudden you're sick, you're not feeling well. Or like I said, your referee partner is not there, or a team is missing, or you know, kind of your car doesn't start, you know, or all of these things have happened. So and then helpful hints: know the rules, work enthusiastically, blow your whistle for everyone to hear, announce your call. So you might want to say it's red throw-in, or it's blue throw-in, or it's goal kick, or it's corner kick. Especially for the younger kids, I just encourage everybody to do this at every opportunity. Use hand signals if you know the hand signals, and then use your whistle to control and stop the game. That's important. If you're looking at everybody's attention, blow the whistle. Before the game, introduce yourself to the coaches. You might want to say, hey, you know, coach, I'll be your referee for today. That goes a long way in helping to build a rapport. Don't necessarily sort of sit off to the side, hiding until it's game time and then walk up. Just kind of be present. Teams are on the same side of the field, each occupying their half. Spectators are on the opposite side. Okay. So when I say on the half, that means they're supposed to stay on their half. I think maybe if everybody thinks about it, they realize, oh yeah, that is how that works. And that teams and coaches are not supposed to be kind of up and down the sideline, helping out their team that's on the field. They're just on their half of the field. And then spectators on the opposite side. We really don't want spectators sort of mixing in with the teams on the side. Request coaches to use cones to mark the corners of the field. So some of the communities, their fields are going to be set up with fields or with flags on game days. Some will not. If there are none there, just ask, hey coach, do you have a couple of disc cones to help mark the boundaries for me? That goes a long way to helping you out and the players out. Request the game ball. So again, many times the coach will say, hey referee, here's the game ball, we can use this one. If they don't, you know, just ask, hey coach, do you have a game ball? A ball that we can use. And then it's going to be inspecting that game ball and making sure that it is the right size. So there's some of that where all of a sudden they may throw you a ball that's not the right size. And we'll go through what all the size requirements are, you know, when we're going through the rules. And you want to check to make sure that it's inflated well. So if they give you a ball that's kind of flat, you know, don't be afraid to say, hey coach, could you put a little more air in this one? You know, that's probably at least 25% of the time, you know, that might be a reaction. Hey coach, could you put a little more air in this one? It's a little bit flat. Inspecting the players. And so I guess, does anybody know, maybe write in the chat. Write in the chat, how do you know if the ball is inflated properly? What kind of simple check can you do? And you don't need like an air pressure gauge. Some may have that. So I see a couple of good ones: squeeze it, kick it, bounce it. So kind of the way that the approach that I take is just take it in your hands and then use your thumbs and see how much you can press into it. If you can press into it pretty far, that's a signal that there needs to be a little bit more air. But I think all of these are good, good ways to go about it. So good. Let's see. So inspect the players, review equipment for each team separately, not at midfield. So this is kind of a holdover from when we're definitely in the midst of COVID. I'd say for now, for maybe the spring, just kind of check each team in separate. And we'll see how that all goes. But we're gonna make sure that shin guards are fully covered by socks. Probably every season I'll see all of a sudden a kid is missing shin guard or missing socks. More often than what they're missing shin guards, but you maybe ask them, hey, everybody bend over, tap your shin guards for me. And you see that, yep, everybody has them on. And again, they need to be fully covered by socks. So your general athletic pair of socks is probably not going to cover all the way over them. And if they don't have that, they can't play. You feel bad about, telling a little kid if that's the case, but that has to be the answer because it's a safety consideration. If there's no sock, the sock keeps it in place. If it's not, then it kind of moves around, and it's also maybe a little bit, plastic. That's an issue for opponents as well. So shirt should be tucked in. I understand a lot of players throughout the course of the game, it seems to be sort of a losing battle. They come untucked, but definitely at the start of the game, mention everybody just tuck in your shirts for us. Spikes, the cleats must not be metal and no toe cleats. So the toe cleat is an indication that it's a baseball cleat. In many cases, I'm not familiar. Maybe, I don't know if football cleats have toe cleats or not, but should not be metal and no toe cleats. So the remedy for a toe cleat is, again, they either cannot play, or again, maybe a little bit care would need to be taken for, let's say, a parent or coach to be able to cut it off. Would not recommend any referees trying to cut cleats for anybody at all. So all of these things, you just bring them up with the players, with the coaches, and it's up to the coach and the player to remedy the situation. So you're just sort of letting them know you're the inspector. Jewelry needs to be removed. So nobody can play with earrings in. And again, this was something that was reinforced when I took my USSF certification just a couple of months ago. In that training, they said, even, for select, nobody is allowed to wear earrings. Doesn't matter if they're taped. It doesn't matter if they're taped. It does not matter. Good question. It does not matter if they've recently been put in. So if it's a younger individual, oftentimes it's a first, second grader, is maybe where you'll end up seeing it. Hey, I just got my ears pierced. I can't take these out. Then the response is really, I'm sorry, but they have to be taken out or you cannot play. And what I've told, it's maybe painful. They say the holes are going to close up. They're probably not going to close up in an hour. It'll just be a little bit painful, maybe to remove them or to try to get them back in. But nobody can play with earrings in, even if they're taped. And I'll say I've seen plenty of select games that happen where players have their ears taped, and that's just, it's something that the referees missed. It's not allowed. Casts are allowed if padded, such that they do not pose a safety hazard. So again, it's the situation where it's kind of a soft cast, cannot be wearing kind of just the hard cast on the kid's arm that they just got, and can't be running around swinging their arm around. It's hard, and it can injure somebody. So it needs to be sufficiently padded, and that is up to the referee discretion. 9 o'clock is approximately when the meeting will be over. If anybody needs to leave at any point in time, hopefully, only for emergency or something in your schedule, not to go and watch television or anything like that. This session is being recorded and will be available to everybody. I'll just make a note, one of the reasons why, so we recorded this session last year. So, for me, I could say, hey, I spent 3 hours kind of providing some referee training. Let's just pass out the recording to the last one. The reality is that, there are some slight changes that happen, just within the rules. And I think just the group being there to ask questions and people hear the questions that people ask and to receive the feedback is good. It enhances the experience. So let's see. And this is essentially kind of the only offering that we're planning. If somebody misses, then the recording will be sent out and they'll be able to view that. No baseball hats are allowed. The goalkeeper is allowed to wear one if, let's say, the sun is shining in their eyes. No bandanas. Goalkeeper must wear a different color shirt. Oops, let me undo that one. Goalkeeper must wear a different color shirt or penny. Hooded sweatshirts cannot be worn over the head. So the hood cannot be worn over the head and it must be tucked inside the shirt. So again, this is something also to watch out for. You'll be surprised. And it can even happen with the older kids that are out there. Kids on the sideline has a sweatshirt on, it's their turn to go in and they run onto the field and they've got their sweatshirt over their game shirt. Or you'll find that, the game started and the goalkeeper doesn't have a goalkeeper shirt on. And you're wondering, how did I miss this? And how did the coaches miss this? So you alert the coach to the fact, you maybe stop the game, get the issue resolved. So tell players your expectations when you're doing kind of your pregame speech. No pockets are allowed. Question, players, and this will be in the full rules. So players can play with pockets in them. So that's a relatively recent change, maybe within the last year or so. It kind of loosened up on that. And the idea is that it's just in the spirit of wanting kids to play. There is a risk that sort of goes along with it. If somebody falls and gets their arm caught in, somebody's short pockets, maybe run the risk of, injuring the arm or the wrist, or perhaps, the shorts coming down. So that's the other aspect of that. But yep, it's okay if you have to leave early. But for the pregame speech, let the players know your expectations. Don't and be specific. So what I tell everybody is, don't say, let's have a clean game. Because what does that mean to a first grader or to a second grader? What does that really mean? It means don't get your shirt dirty, probably. Right? So you want to give them specifics. So say, don't push, when you're out there, keep your arms in. If you fall down, get up. Nobody's allowed to slide tackle, unless it's the 7th and 8th grade division. Here's how you do a proper throw in. Keep both feet down, hands over the head, throw the ball. If offsides is something you've been noticing that teams are having trouble with, maybe let them know about that. Substitutions, hey, substitutions, and this is kind of for the coaches too, just before you're ready to substitute, just make sure that your substitutes are standing at the center line and ready so that I can see them. Or, hey, coach, if you want to substitute, just kind of call out to me, hey, referee, next opportunity to substitute. Because you'll end up with both things, both situations. You'll have the coach that's always asking you to substitute when they're getting ready to do that. Or you'll have the coaches that are saying, hey, I've got my players at the center line. You should recognize that I want to substitute. For many of you, I would encourage you to just let the coach know, hey, if you want to substitute, just call out to me and let me know. But that's something as a referee too, that as a player, you're never really involved in that at all. The substitution process, other than going into the game or coming out of the game. But as a referee, you need to be able to recognize, is it an opportunity that the team can substitute? And is the team wanting to substitute? Sometimes it's windy out there and it's hard to hear. Sometimes the pace of the game is fast, so you have to be kind of shooting glances over at the sideline to know if the team wants to substitute. Yep, I will define pushing later, or try to. That's the most, I will say pushing is the most difficult one. Most should be objective, but tends to be subjective. So let them know your expectations in your pregame speech. Make it worthwhile, something specific, and that's something to practice at home. So don't let the first time you sort of give that pregame speech be when you show up to your first game. Let try it in front of the mirror, or try it in front of one of your parents or a sibling or something like that. Give it a little bit of practice. Same with blowing your whistle. Practice blowing your whistle. Don't let the game be the first time that you blow your whistle, or it will, most likely you will be maybe a little bit nervous, and it's just not going to sound right. There is a little bit of technique to blowing the whistle. We'll go over that. Start games on time. Do not allow field warmups at past start time. So teams are not automatically guaranteed an opportunity to warm up on the field. Coin toss. So team captains call to the center circle. Show heads. So if you have a coin, show them heads, tails. You can flip it. Ask the visiting team to call the toss in the air. You can either let it hit the ground and that's what it is, or you can catch it and then flip it over. I think most actually let it hit the ground and kind of whatever it is. Winning team of the coin toss gets to select. So if you don't have a coin, just use fingers behind your back. Just say, hey, I've got a 1 or I've got a 2. Which is it? That's kind of your backup. Winning team selects the goal to defend or a kickoff. So in years past, it was just which goal do you want to defend. But more recently, they can also choose to have the kickoff if they want. If selecting the kickoff, the other team selects the goal to defend. And that's how that goes. Referee position. So again, we haven't gotten into it yet. The traditional for grades 5 through 8, if you're officiating games for grades 5 through 8, we have a 2-person referee system. And the guidance, the way that it's supposed to work, you see that they're sort of offset here. When facing the field of play, if you stick your right hand out, that's the end of the field that you should be watching offsides for. And that's the side of the field that you're the sideline that you're running. And then the opposite person, the person opposite you, they're facing sort of the opposite direction, so they end up with the other end. So that's where you see this right here. If facing into the field of play, they're on the right side, all the way to the end line, and at least to center. Yes, are people not seeing my document on the screen? Okay, so most people see it. So we're almost finished with this one. Okay. And then for grades 1 through 4, we actually only use 1 official. So with 1, and again, those fields are very short. So it's easy to do that. You don't have to worry so much about getting up and down the field. It's more about making the calls. There, kind of the guidance is, don't necessarily be on one of the sidelines. It helps to be in the field of play so that you can actually see when the ball goes out across one of the lines, either the sidelines. So you want to be kind of in the field of play, following that. And generally guidance is behind and to the left is what helps. So that's if you're a center. Halftime is 5 minutes. Conclusion of the game, teams do not need to shake hands due to the COVID environment. Again, that's everybody is becoming more relaxed with that, but it's not a requirement that teams shake hands. If teams want to do that and that's going on, everybody feels comfortable doing that, that's okay. This is an opportunity at the end of the game to watch for problems or maybe poor sportsmanship. Depending on how the game went, I mean, these are things to also watch for during the game. Coaches do not need to, so again, the game cards that you have, coaches don't need to sign them. Again, due to that, due to COVID, we kind of took a break from that. Perhaps when the fall rolls around, we'll end up changing that back, that we'll want to do that, but not a requirement for that. And then if you experience any problems, hand out any yellow or red cards, if there were any serious injuries or such as a concussion, report that back to me. We want to, as a league, we just want to keep tabs on those things. Just, if there are, somebody was seriously injured, or if there's somebody that is getting cards like every week, or if there's a coach out there that is, giving you a really hard time. Those are things to kind of communicate back, and an opportunity for me to have a conversation with you and with that particular coach or that community leader, to talk with that coach on the referee's behalf. So again, are there any questions on what's contained in this document or what we've just talked about? If so, please feel free to write it in the chat. Okay, good. So otherwise, just a few notes that I have jotted down sort of in the same spirit of being prepared. So arrive to the game 15 minutes, at least 15 minutes before the game starts. Invariably, what's going to happen is all of a sudden you're going to be running a little bit late. Okay, you only have 10 minutes, but 15 minutes is a good amount of time to get there, get to your field, find the right field. Make sure that you're on the sideline getting situated. You've got your things in a bag. If you get there later than that, if you get there 5 minutes, you're feeling rushed, and some things will be forgotten, and you just don't want to feel rushed. So 15 minutes, know the weather and dress appropriately. So what do I mean by that? Is it going to be warm outside, hot outside, or is it going to be cold outside? How many of you write in the chat? Nope. 2 referees, and we'll maybe go through this again. It'll be in the rules, but we use 1 official for grades 1 through 4, and we use 2 for grades 5 through 8. So we use a 2-person system. If any of you are familiar with Select, grade U11 and above use a 3-person system. So a referee and 2 assistant referees, 2 ARs with the flags. For this league, we don't use any flags. When we're running a 2-person system, each individual has a whistle. Kind of considered a no-no with USSF, but we found that that's worked okay, worked fine. So again, for being prepared, dressing appropriately. So again, you want to make sure that you have your referee shirt, but you want to make sure that you are correct, only up through grade 8 at max. The other kind of guideline that I use for assigning people to games is that you have to be at least 2 years, or let's say 2 grades older than the game that you're officiating. So as an example, and oftentimes for those that are brand new, just getting started, unless you obviously have some prior experience, let's say you're maybe a high school player, or you're a college player, or you're an adult, generally you're going to work games for grades 1 through 4. Okay, so most people on here are at the youngest. If you're 13, you're probably either in 7th grade or 8th grade. So that kind of that makes sure that you have that at least 2-year age gap difference, being older than, let's say, somebody in 1st grade or 2nd grade or 3rd or 4th. You're at least 3 to 4 years older. For grades, let's say 7 and 8, it's probably very unlikely you're not going to be assigned to those games unless you're probably at least a sophomore in high school. Generally, 7th and 8th grade are going to be more for, hopefully we have, adults working those games, at least one adult on those games, and let's say a junior or senior in high school, unless somebody's, let's say, a sophomore and been officiating for a couple of years already. Those games can get intense, can get physical, so it's good to just have some referees out there, some people out there with some experience. So that's part of my job, is making sure to put all of you in positions that you can succeed. I don't want to put anybody on a game that I don't think that they're quite ready for, or that you're uncomfortable doing. So one class. So this is it. And again, it's being recorded, so you can always watch whatever you miss after the fact. Anybody is always, I'm always available for people to, send me questions if you have questions about certain things or certain situations. But yeah, just one class since we're recording it. So again, kind of back to being prepared and dressing appropriately. So general question for the group. So write your answer in the chat. Do you have to dress in cold weather? Do you have to dress warmer with more clothes than the players, or less? So it's a cold weather game. Do you need more clothes or less clothes than the players? Okay, great. Everybody's got it right. More clothes. So this is important for you. For those of you that are players, you may be not watching the news. How many of you watch the weather? Or are you relying on your parents to do that? If you work early games, the early games, maybe it's only 40 degrees, but the games, let's say at noon, are the games at noon are maybe 60 degrees. So it can be a very big different temperature change. And, you want to think you need to have warmer clothes as a referee than what you would wear as a player. So if a player, you think, I'm wearing my shorts and I'm wearing just my game shirt, or I've got just a t-shirt or whatever underneath the game shirt. As a referee, you maybe want more than that. And yeah, it maybe makes a difference too. If the game is in Sheboygan versus out in Elkhart Lake, sometimes in the spring, the weather is just very different. So it might be at least 10 degrees difference, or it could be 15 degrees difference in some of those communities. So you want to make sure and just be aware of that. You can always bring extra clothes and have it available in your duffel bag, whatever you end up, your backpack, whatever you end up bringing, so that you can put on an extra sweatshirt if you need it, or that you have a hat and gloves if you need it. The other thing is bring something to eat and drink. Like I had mentioned before, oftentimes you're going to be assigned, let's say, a minimum of 2, 3 games, maybe 4 games. And then if it's 4 games, you're going to be out there at least for 3 games, you're out there 3 hours. So you're also out there longer than what you are as a player for a team. You're out there for your game and that's it, you're done. As a referee, you're out there for multiple hours. So you want to make sure to bring something to eat, something to drink. You want to make sure to bring sunscreen. If it's sunny in spring, again, it's tricky. The sun will be out, maybe bright and shining. You can get sunburned even if you're cold out there. So that's something to be aware of. But yeah, just kind of being prepared. If it's going to be rainy, you maybe want to bring a garbage bag to put your backpack in, your duffel bag in, so that stuff doesn't get all wet. You might want to bring extra pair of socks along if you have that. If your shoes are in rough shape, that's something you want to make sure to bring tape along. But no, seriously, I think I have seen it where all of a sudden a player's shoes just totally explode on them. The sole is basically off. So, maybe if your shoes are in rough shape, bring a second pair of shoes as well, or, kind of leave those older ones behind. So again, things like that, positioning on the field, we just having that sort of diagonal that's shown here on the sheet. You don't want to be straight across from your referee partner. If you are, that means you didn't talk about confirm who's going to have which side, and you're not sure which side you should be watching offsides for. You want to make sure to help out the younger kids. I think we talked about that a little bit already, but for grades 1 through 4 especially, I'll say all divisions probably have some brand new players in them. They didn't play in the fall, and now they signed up in spring for the first time. Across all of the communities, there are, I would say, more than 100 new players for the league for this spring. Across all of them, there's more than 100. So there are going to be players out there, if it's their first time, just because you blow the whistle and the ball rolled past the line, they don't maybe know what that means. They don't know how to maybe restart, put the ball back in play. So those are opportunities, especially with the younger kids, grades 1 through 4, let them know, it's a goal. And just because you say goal kick, just because you say corner kick, that doesn't mean that they know what that is. So you may need to help them with putting the ball where it's supposed to go. And honestly, I think it's helpful, especially for the new referees out there. It's helpful for you to be sort of engaged in the game that way. If you know that you need to maybe help go get the ball when it goes out of bounds, or that you want to put the ball kind of on the corner for them, get it set up, or to just be talking with the players and communicating and letting them know what they're supposed to be doing. You'll get a feel for that just in the game, especially those younger age groups, like if the players are familiar with what they're supposed to be doing, or if they're not, or you'll recognize some players are and some aren't. So be instructional out there. There's a good comment in the chat. Referees, your footwear is up to you. Just know that, again, depending on the surface and the surface conditions, if it's wet outside, it's going to be slippery. Just as it is for the players, it will be for the referee. So you want to make sure that you have some good traction, or just kind of watch your footing. So cleats are good, turf shoes are good. If you're wearing just normal running shoes or something like that, that's, just be careful out there. When it's, dry, that's, good weather, it's generally not an issue. But oftentimes in the mornings, there can be a lot of dew on the grass, and it can be wet, especially in the springtime. So kind of on that note, players, I think this is should be in the full rules. Players, again, they can wear tennis shoes if they want as well. That's completely fine. Most are going to be wearing cleats, but again, that's kind of up to them. Maybe the parent is just kind of seeing if the kid likes it before they kind of go and make an investment in something like that. If the kid's kind of on the fence, but it's totally fine for a kid to wear tennis shoes and be playing out there like that. So helping out the younger kids, extremely important. Blowing your whistle. So again, many times when I see young referees out there, and I'll just say maybe inexperienced referees, doesn't have to be young age-wise, just people that haven't done it before, people that haven't blown a whistle before. Maybe stop sharing this. So people that haven't blown a whistle before, there's something to it. There's a technique to it. There's the whistles that get handed out, they're not defective. They work. It's just a matter of, because that's always the question. I don't think my whistle works. It works fine. So I actually I thought about this last season and was kind of wondering, like, why do people not know how to do this? So I thought about sort of how I go about it, just mechanically. And the description that I came up with was, and I will email this out, but I will write it in the chat. for everybody to see. So the technique, it's not like you blow up a balloon when you have your mouth just wide open and you're blowing like, it's not like that. It's a short, quick blow with the mouth closing tighter as you do it. So it's almost like you're pursing your lips around the whistle when you do it, and it's kind of short and quick and fast. And practice. If it isn't working, your technique isn't right. So that's kind of the advice. Don't let that very first game be the first time that you blow the whistle. Even if it's annoying to mom and dad in the house, you can maybe step outside and do it. The weather's better, like practice. I cannot stress that enough, because whistles are another sort of first impression for all the coaches out there. Everybody, the coaches, the fans, the players. If you blow your whistle and it just sounds like super soft or like it didn't work, the first thing they think is, okay, like this referee's going to be bad, or this is a brand new referee. They or they're just super shy. And I've seen it. If you don't have the right technique, you can blow on it really hard. It's not going to work. It's not going to sound loud at all. So practice. How to hold a whistle. Again, between your and of course I don't have one sitting here, but I probably do. But it's hold it like between your thumb and your forefinger. That's how you want to hold it, and you want to kind of have that be in your hand. With the whistles, everybody's going to get a wrist lanyard as well. The cardiac goes along with that. It's not just the whistle. But again, it's a wrist lanyard. It's not a longer one where you wear it around your neck. Don't wear it around your neck. With a wrist lanyard, you won't be able to. But those are some small details. Don't twirl it. Keep it in your hand. Always pay attention to the game. So you never want to turn your back on the game. So again, kind of the classic example, or the one that I've seen, is you're kind of jogging down the field. Okay, the ball goes out. It's going to be a goal kick. Okay, so then play goes back the other direction. I've seen referees, they kind of just turn and start running back up the field, and lo and behold, the goal kick happens and play is started and they're facing the wrong direction. So always be paying attention to what's happening out there. We talked about first impressions being important. Player safety is number one. If anything, the way to get coaches upset, players upset, fans upset, is if they think that players are getting hurt because fouls are not being called. So that is the most important thing. Make sure to keep everybody safe out there. That starts with the equipment check, making sure that nobody has equipment on that they shouldn't. People should not be wearing earrings. If they get the ball on the side of the head, it's going to hurt really bad. People should have shin guards. If they don't and they get kicked in the leg, that's going to hurt. And they could get injured pretty seriously. If people are flailing their arms around, kind of swinging them around, that's going to hurt. If people are wearing a cast and they're allowed to play, that's going to hurt. If somebody gets hit. And then if people are slide tackling and shouldn't, doing it improperly, incorrectly, that's going to, get people, upset, and reasonably so. And then again, yeah, if kids are tripping or if kids are getting pushed and knocked down, that's going to get people upset. So it should be easy to kind of make those calls. That's why it's so important to be comfortable blowing your whistle. And that's why part of the reason I suggest blowing your whistle every time the ball goes out. Because you are getting that practice, you are getting that repetition just in blowing your whistle. It becomes not anything like, oh no, I have to blow my whistle now. That you're comfortable doing that. So that's important. So player safety, number one. In the case of bad weather, the league is going to call off games. So if it's raining outside, or if it's been raining, the last couple of days, and you're thinking, oh gee, fields are wet, we can't possibly be playing, that will come from me for any of the games that I assign. For those working in Manitowoc, that would probably come from that referee, Tom, the referee assigner up there. It would come from John, the referee assigner in Elkhart Lake. But as kind of how that goes is each of the communities is responsible for their own fields, just their playability. So we would have a check-in early in the morning, let's say on Saturday, if it's not known before then, just is it a go or a no-go? And if you don't receive an email from me or some kind of communication from me, it would be an email. Again, because there's a lot of, I'm sure there'll be at least over 100 referees maybe active. If you don't receive an email from me about games being canceled, they're on. So go to your scheduled game assignment. If, during the course of the game, something happened, the weather turns bad or it's raining. So we play in rain, light rain. I'll say we play in rain. For some of the younger kids, first graders, they may not want to play in a driving rain. That would be something that you work with the coaches to figure out, okay, do we not want to play? Just, call the game or whatever. But in the case, if there's lightning, you have to stop the game. If you see lightning and it's going to be a 30-minute stoppage. So depending on what the weather is like, those are situations, many of you are young referees. Those are things to work with the coaches on when you're at the game site. So unless you hear from me, games are on. Be in charge of the game. Don't let the game dictate your actions. So by that, I mean, let's see, I've got a couple of questions. So after the training, so probably in a couple weeks, everybody will get their shirt. I'll send something out. There's a question. Halftime is 5 minutes. In the younger ages, how long are breaks between quarters? And we'll get to that. There's really no time in between. It's just a matter of the kids come off. Coach maybe gives them some different positions. They get a drink of water and then they go back on. So that might be, let's say, 2 minutes. A minute, 2 minutes is all that is. Let's see. Oh, so being in charge of the game. I think I'd mentioned earlier, if you blow your whistle and you call a foul, or the ball goes out and you blow your whistle, but for whatever reason, the players don't hear you and they just keep playing. What do you do in that situation? So write it in the chat. Great. So blow your whistle again, right? If you're gonna say something verbally, you want to prefix it with a blowing on the whistle to get their attention. You might say something, but it could be, if it's older kids, they're kind of off 20 yards down the field, so blow it again harder. And if don't let their actions sort of dictate what your calls are. As an example, let's say that let's say a 5th grade game, let's say somebody takes a goal kick and before it comes out of the penalty area, the opposing team intercepts the ball inside of the penalty area and just kicks it right into the goal. That's not a goal. You need to be strong enough to blow your whistle, confident enough to blow your whistle, and have the goal kick be retaken. So that would be a situation there. Everybody's cheering, hey, it's a goal. You have to be the person that says it's not a goal. Same with player does a throw in, they lift up their foot on the throw in, and play kind of continues on. You blew your whistle, blow it again to make them come back and say, hey, you know what? That was not a good throw in. It's the other team's ball. So those are a couple of examples. Maintaining time. So again, in the chat, is it a running clock or is it a clock that gets stopped every time there's a substitution? So is it running clock? Okay, good. So everybody's got it's a running clock. So with your watch that you have, your stopwatch, you're going to set it to the time for the quarters or the halves, and you're going to leave it alone until you get to quarter or until you get to half. You're not going to stop it in between. It's very apparent when that happens because all of a sudden the coach is like, gee, we've been playing for like a long time. Isn't it like halftime or quarter? It's like, okay, you've been stopping your watch most likely, or you lost track of it. So that's important. It's a running clock. Everybody should know that. The only time that you would actually stop your watch, or let's say add a little bit of extra time, is if there's a serious, let's say, injury where or a long stoppage. Let's say it takes a long time to get a player off of the field, or everybody has lots of balls in spare these days. So if all of a sudden the ball goes flat, which I've had happen to me, throughout the course of the game, all of a sudden the ball is like deflates and you need a new ball. Usually that situation can be remedied pretty quick. Yep, coach has another one, throw it on, let's go. So generally you're not stopping the clock. Okay, at a minimum, I think, how many different shirt colors should there be on the field between the two teams? Okay, so I see a lot of 4s out there. So with this, I think 4 is the correct answer if it's USSF game. I would be okay with, we can be okay with 3. So a color for each of the two teams. So each team is a different color. And then the goalkeepers, just a different color than the two teams. So the goalkeeper, so if we've got red playing blue, the goalkeeper should be a color other than red or blue. Okay, so they could be green. I'm not going to say that the two goalkeepers have to be, one has to be orange and one has to be green. So I think maybe some leagues, that would be a requirement, but that's enough for you to be able to tell, who's who out there, and it's enough for the teams to know. They won't be getting confused with the two goalkeepers, who's supposed to be what. There are no timeouts. So it's a good question. I'm glad that was actually asked, but there are no timeouts in soccer. The only, and maybe what's being referred to is if it's at quarter, at halftime is 5 minutes, and that'll be part of the rules section we go through. So halftime is 5 minutes. Quarters are, like I said, just enough time for them to switch. Teams come in, get a water break, coach maybe to give new positions and kind of get them right back out on the field. So another thing, you want to keep your ears open while you're out there on the field. And write in the chat, what kinds of things might you be listening for? Who are you listening for? Okay, coaches, you want to listen for the coaches. Okay, you might want to see if there's any unsporting behavior talk going on out there. That can happen. Yep, bad language, crying, that's another good one. Maybe somebody's hurt and it's not totally apparent that all, they're up, they're kind of walking around, all of a sudden you look over and somebody's crying, they're trying to get your attention, that a player's injured. Okay, thanks for coming, Taylor. Coaches, yep, you want to pay attention. The other referee might be trying to get your attention to work with you on something. Those are all great answers. So coaches that are maybe trying to substitute, you want to be aware of and kind of listening for that. Players, you want to have kind of a handle on what's being said out on the field. And again, for those younger kids, and like I said, grades 1 through 4, you will maybe very likely see, especially if the game is not close, you'll see or hear some players saying, that team's not any good, or a variation of that. And as a referee, you can just say, hey, hey guys, hey girls, let's let's not talk like that. You might want to say something like that, or you might want to just kind of let the coach know. So again, you're helping create a good environment out there, for everybody. And that can be difficult to do if this is kind of your first time doing this. If you're a little bit younger, and still developing some of your self-confidence, but so that's something. Keep your ears open. All of those things that were mentioned in the chat are great. You want to ignore fan comments. So my advice is, if fans are saying, hey ref, wasn't that a push, or wasn't that some kind of a foul, or whatever the case, or coach is kind of saying some of the same thing, generally you want to try to ignore that stuff. If you kind of get into dialogue or conversation with those people, it's generally not a good outcome. I would, for those referees that are more experienced, are older, or maybe adults, or that, I guess are confident, I would encourage you not to. Sometimes what it comes back is the referee like shoots something back, comment back like, coach, you don't know what you're talking about. Or, it's something along the lines of, I'm right, you're wrong. And it usually doesn't go over very well either. Because then the coach is complaining that the referee is, arrogant or cocky, or, kind of whatever the case. So you're better off, kind of leaving that alone. If the fan comments are getting too much, they're getting on your case, the coach is getting on your case, again, that's for the fans, that's something that you can address with the coach. Hopefully if it's in the first half and it's at halftime, you can let the coach know, say, hey, coach, can you maybe talk with your fans there, whatever, yelling certain things. If it's the coach, those are situations to let me know about as well. Unfortunately, there's not a ton that I can do during the course of that game. I'm not going to be available, but it's something you can approach with the coach. If the coach is kind of the issue, then you can say, hey coach, you might say, hey coach, you know what, I'm doing the best that I can. What you're doing is not helping me. And that's what I also run the coaches meeting. And what I put out there, the communication that I put out to the coaches is, if you want a good performance from the referees out there, it's in your best interest not to, let's say, degrade them, or to get on their case and be constantly like yelling at them. What's going to happen is the referee, oftentimes, you're just going to kind of shut down, and you're just going to be waiting for the time to click off and the game to be over. So the coaches are being told that they're not going to get as good of a performance out of the referees if that's how they choose to act. With that said, that's what all of you get told. That's what the coaches get told. That's the sportsman. I forget exactly what it's called. The code of conduct that every player signs, when their parents sign when they register the kids. Whether they've read through all of that documentation or not, but that's basically what everybody's agreeing to. If we find that there are some coaches that are, like I said, they will be talked to, and to find out what exactly went wrong. Their community leaders are going to be will be told about the incident, and they'll be asked to follow up with those coaches as well. If it's something bad enough, then the recommendation is going to be that they're not a coach. All of that said, all of you should be prepared to find yourself in some situations where coaches and players and fans, spectators are not happy with your calls. That's the nature of the business. That's kind of the harsh reality, that any referee, it doesn't matter who you are, you will have some coaches, players, and spectators along the way in one of your games, oftentimes in more than one of your games. They're gonna not agree with the calls that you're making or not, or the calls that you're not making or that you're making. It's pretty rare that, you know, if I finished a game, that I can say that was a perfect game. Like I did it all right. It doesn't happen. So you're going to end up missing some calls, and you're going to have to be okay with it. You're going to have to get through it. You know, the coaches are going to, you know, what I say is, you know what, coach, you can maybe make a comment, but then, you know, and then just leave it alone. You know, hey, wasn't that a handball? That's totally fine. You can expect that. Hey, referee, wasn't that a trip? You know, please watch the pushing out there. You can expect to hear that stuff. And the coaches should be kind of saying that, kind of let you know what they're thinking as well. But you have to be okay with that. You're going to get that kind of a feedback. It's the tone in which they say it. It's the is it a mention and then it's left go, or is it kind of this continual thing? So just have everybody needs to be aware of that. You know, like I said, it's going to happen. It happens in the World Cup. You know, people aren't happy with the referees' calls out there. Every level, it happens in high school. It happens everywhere. Everybody thinks that each of these games is the World Cup. You know, and it's, you know, sometimes people lose perspective on sort of what's important and what's really going on out there. But if nothing else, you know, this being a referee, I'll get to that one. Being a referee is a great opportunity to develop leadership skills. So out there, you're the referee, you're in control, right? People are looking to you to manage the game. And again, I'm looking to put all of you in positions to succeed. So again, many of you, the first time referees, you're on grades 1 and 2, when the kids are only as tall as your waist. And it should be a very non-intimidating environment. So a great opportunity to develop leadership skills, to develop confidence. It's a great part-time job where you can earn some money while doing something you enjoy, you know, being around the game that you enjoy. And this is something that if you keep working at it, you know, you can make it a good part-time job. This can be your part-time job, other than, you know, maybe not just this league, but I'm saying if you do it, you work this league, you kind of get into working select games, you end up working, you know, tournaments. There's decent money in the referee business. But so all of those things, like I said, it's a great opportunity. Kind of the comment that's put in the chat. If a fight were to break out, and again, I've seen many games. I don't think I've known it to happen in a community league game. It's not happened. People can get heated, and, you know, things can be said, but I've not seen a fist fight in a community, anything like that, any kind of a wrestling around kind of sort of thing. I've seen things happen in adult leagues. You know, in games when I played adult league, you know, some things out there, things happen every now and then. But, you know, for those things, you as officials, it's not your job to go in there and break up the fight. You know, that's something, you know, for those of you with some, you know, you would say, hey, coach, you know, can you please, it's the coach should be kind of trying to help out in that situation. And like I said, you're probably not going to see anything like that, but fight, or whether it's an injury, maybe I'll say something else. So an injury happens out on the field, you're not the doctor, right? Unless any of you adults on the call are doctors. But it's not your job to go out and, you know, help the player get up. It's not your job to see, you know, figure out what's wrong. That's, you would blow your whistle, kind of motion, you know, stop the game, motion the coach to come out on the field, and then the coach is going to attend, you know, maybe a parent comes running out to kind of help, you know, depending on what the nature of it is. So again, that's not anything that, you know, all of you are managing the game, calling the game. You're not the police, you're not the doctors, kind of anything like that. So we're almost at time for a quick break. So maybe one thing that actually let's take a break. Let's take a 5-minute break. I've got 7:28. Let's come back, make sure that we're back at 7:34. All right. Okay, let's resume. So everything that we just went through so far is just some of the admin of the season, just, how does this whole process work? What it makes you eligible for? And then just being prepared and some of the things that you're gonna run into out there. We haven't talked at all really about rules, right? When people think about referee, they think about what are the rules. So the first half of that course, of this course, is really just meant to kind of get you in the right frame of mind to prepare you for just everything else that this involves. So then now we're going to start to focus a little bit more on the rules and some of the things that go along with that. So first thing we're going to start out with is just maybe a common understanding of the playing area. So again, this is going to be more for grades. It'll be relevant for grades 1 through 4 as well. But we'll start with grades, just kind of knowing the field and its parts, the parts of the field and the markings on the field. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm just not that used to Zoom. Find it. Okay, so do people see a field on the screen? Yes or no? Yes, okay, good. All right, so hopefully everybody's still there, right? Yep. Think. Okay. 1 second, sorry. Okay, so the field here, who can tell me, I guess, right in the chat. And I'm going to monitor the chat. Who can tell me what the long lines of the field are called? Just right in the chat. So this the sideline or the touch line is what those are. Who can tell me what the ends of the field, those lines, are called? So end line, goal line. Yes, good. Now, who can tell me what this small, let's start with this circle. What is this called? Center circle, good. Who can tell me what this line is? The one that divides the field in half. Midfield, half. Yep, the halfway line, or the center line. Okay, so we'll ratchet up the level of difficulty. Who can tell me what this small rectangle is? The technical term. So people refer to it as the 6-yard box sometimes. It is the goal, and I guess something that I was taught in my very first referee class many years ago was there are no boxes in soccer. There are areas. So this is the goal area. sometimes referred to as the goal box or the 6 yard. So this is the goal area. And it's called, sometimes referred to as the 6 yard, because of the distance from the end line or the goal line to the top is 6 yards on a standard full-size field. So now what is the larger rectangular area? Okay, good. Penalty area. So those two are very important for some of our future discussion tonight. Goal area, penalty area. Who knows what this is? This line right here. Penalty arc, very good. And who can tell me, when does that even come into play? Like, when does that even get used? Pretty rarely. Right, penalty kicks. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but not used that often. Who can tell me, and again, what does this dot represent? Okay, the penalty mark. It's called the penalty mark. And so we already mentioned that the distance from here, end line, goal line to the top of the goal area is 6 yards. On a standard size field, full size field, because it's different if the field is smaller, right? So that's something to be aware of too. These dimensions are a little bit different if it's a 50 by 80 field versus if it's 100 by 65 versus, something smaller yet. So generally the distance from here to here to the penalty mark is how far? "12 is the correct answer. So 12 yards from here to here. Now, who can tell me what the distance is from here, the penalty mark, to the top of the penalty arc? I've seen one correct answer so far. So 10 yards from here to here. So here's where this comes into play, right? Because on a kick like this, it's like many other kicks, the other players have to be 10 yards away. So this is kind of the boundary of a circle, if you will. We could think of it that way. Otherwise, for penalty kicks, everybody has to be outside of the penalty area. They can be on the side, but they cannot be closer to the goal. They cannot be in front of the ball, the penalty mark. So they could be right here. Players cannot be down here. They can be here. They cannot be down here. And then who can tell me, kind of maybe gave it away if people were listening, what's the distance from this center mark where the kickoff takes place to any edge on the outside of the circle? Right, 10 yards. So that's kind of the magic number and the reason for the circle. And again, it applies down here as well. Okay, and then the penalty area, again, this is where if a foul is committed by the defensive player, foul. If it's indirect, it's going to be at the spot of the foul. If it's direct, it's going to be a penalty kick. And we'll kind of get into more of that as we talk here. So, okay, good. So I'll stop sharing my screen. These are the corner arcs, out on the corners of the field. But I'll stop sharing that. And then I'm going to pull up the I don't know. I'm going to go for the full rules first. And then we'll get to the grades 1 through 4 rule modifications. So the grades, we'll do that first because that's what everybody's familiar with. Grades or the full rules. And then we'll come back to grades 1 through 4. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. If I can find it. So can everybody see it says Community League rules and guidelines? People see that. Okay, good. So then going through, and again, all of this is going to be on the club website. I'll send all of you, after this is over, I'll end up adding all of your email addresses to my email group, referee email group. And then I'll send out the website, lakeshoreunitedfc.org, where this is under the referee section. All these documents will exist. So uniforms and equipment. So I'm just going to read through this. If anybody has questions along the way, I'll probably stop and ask some questions as I have been doing. Just checking for understanding. All players must wear their team shirt provided to them. Shin protectors are required and must be fully covered by socks. Shirts must be tucked into shorts. Athletic pants or shorts preferred should be worn. Players should wear shorts without pockets, belt loops, snaps, or zippers, as they could pose a safety hazard to themselves or other players. Coaches will be notified, but players will be allowed to play. So it's generally a better idea to wear shorts without those things, or things without those, or clothing without those, but people can still play. No jewelry, no earrings, watches, necklaces, etc. will be allowed. So again, if you find that, again, you should see that in your inspection. If you see it during the course of the game, have that player come out, stop the game, have the player come out and take care of that situation. Let's see. So medic alert bracelets are an exception and must be taped to the wrist hand. Necklaces for medic alert necklaces are not allowed. No baseball caps, bandanas, or spray hair dye is allowed. However, sweatbands are okay if they do not pose a safety hazard. The goalkeeper may wear a baseball cap when the sun affects their vision. Sweatpants may be worn during cold weather. That's fine. Hoods must be tucked in. T-shirts, sleeves may not be tied up or folded under. Only soccer shoes and gym shoes are allowed. So again, gym shoes are, running shoes, tennis shoes, that's fine. Metal cleats of any type are not allowed. What if somebody has diabetes and needs a pump or other piece of medical? That would be fine as well. For diabetes. Metal cleats of any type are not allowed. Casts, if padded, are allowed if they do not present a safety risk to other players. Hard knee braces posing a safety risk to other players are not allowed. So I don't know that I've seen it too much anymore, but sometimes you have these knee braces that are, I don't know, there's a lot to them with kind of it looks like the gears, and it looks like almost some AI help, but it has to not present a safety hazard, not like sharp edges, like hard, metal or hard plastic kind of. Players wearing clothing that may pose a safety risk to themselves or other players are not allowed to play. Protective headgear, soft type headgear is acceptable during games. This is, rare. I've maybe rarely seen something like this, but any headgear with hard plastic or metal components will not be allowed. The headgear must be worn properly and used for its intended purpose, referee's determination. Rainouts and cancellations, we went through this already. We play unless you are notified. The decision to cancel games will be made by the officials and community leaders. Cancellation announcements will be posted online on the website. Play information. It's all of teams are formed basically by grade. Our divisions are by grade. It does not mean that in the first, so we have first grade division, well, age group first grade, second grade, third grade is separate, fourth grade is separate, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth are together. If it's a third grade game, there could be a couple of fourth graders playing in it. That's okay. That's not anything that I think you need to worry about. If a community did not have enough players to have a fourth grade team, and they had a couple of fourth graders, generally we've slotted them in the division that is predominantly that grade. So it's mostly third graders. They're probably playing mostly in the third grade. They're playing in the third grade division. If it's a 50-50 mix, they're probably playing in the up division. So if it's third and fourth graders, probably mixed, they're probably playing in the fourth grade division. So there are things like that. But it's kind of a best fit model is the intention. So again, for those that are more familiar with the youth system, we don't really use that here. For the community league, it's forming kids teams with forming teams for kids kind of generally at the school and the grade that they go to. But first grade is U7, second is U8, third is U9, so on and so forth is generally speaking what it is. For first grade, 4 10-minute quarters, they have a size 3 ball. 3 players is what they use. So it's 2 field players and a goalkeeper. That's it. So it's very small sided. The field size is like 25 by 35 or 25 by 30 yards. So it's very small. You know, in a couple of steps, you can be kind of on the other side of the field. And the idea behind that is just fewer players on the field, smaller field, more touches on the ball. Each player is more has more opportunities to be involved in play. They're not kind of off to the side, you know, hoping that the ball is maybe going to come over to them. So need 3 players to start. And generally, again, max roster size, this is more from a administrative standpoint, from a coach standpoint. It's not anything that you maybe need to be really worried about, but generally those teams they would not have more than 6 players. Second grade, again, 4 10-minute quarters, a size 3 ball. Second grade is maybe where you'll start to see all of a sudden some size 4 balls start to get thrown out there to be used. You know, ask for the size 3. So 4 players on the field, it's 3. So again, these numbers are including goalkeepers. Every age group has a goalkeeper. So 3 field players and a goalkeeper. The goalkeeper does not need to sit in front of the goal. They can move about the field as any other. It's just that they can only use their hands in their goal in their area. And we'll kind of go through that. Penalty area for grades 5 through 8, and then we'll talk about the format for grades 1 through 4. Third and fourth grade, 4 12-minute quarters, size 4 ball. They're playing 5v5, including a goalkeeper, so it's 4 plus a keeper. Fifth and sixth grade, 2 30-minute halves, size 4 ball, 8 players, so it's 7 plus a keeper. Seventh and eighth grade division, 2 35-minute halves, size 5 ball, 11 players, including the keeper. Kind of a note down here, teams not having the minimum number of players at the start of the game will forfeit. So there's, you can, in some of these, you can have a little bit less than the required number to field the full team. Scrimmage may be arranged. So in this situation, again, this is one where, you know, let common sense be kind of your North Star. Everybody that showed up to the game, they want to play a game. So, you know, they maybe want to have, you know, some kind of a scrimmage. We don't keep official standings or anything like that. It might be that the one team is willing to share, you know, some players to play with the other group, you know, something like that. But that's something to work with the coaches. You know, hey, coaches, do you want to play, or like, what can you figure out? If a team has less than the required players, the opposing team may field 1 more player than the team with the lesser number. So generally, I think the only one where that would really apply would be the 7th and 8th grade division. Technically, if a team only had 9 players, the other team could only put out 10. And oftentimes what we'll be seeing, unless the team with 9 is going to win, they're probably more than happy to play, let's say 9-on-9 or 10-on-9. 11-on-9, most likely it's not going to be super competitive. So anyways, playing time, all players are to play a minimum of 1/2 the regulation time and also to appear in each half of the game. A coach may reduce a player's playing time due to injury or player conduct. Not anything that really the referee group needs to worry about. It's more from a direction to coach. It's helpful hints for coaches. Game time are to start at scheduled times. Teams should not warm up on the field unless time permits. The referee, again, this would be very rare. The referee could reduce the length of halves both equally. If games are running late, they must communicate that they're going to do this to the coaches before doing so. So again, this is very rare. In years past, I feel like I've remembered like many years ago, all of a sudden, like games are 30 minutes behind, something. If a game is 2 minutes behind, there's no need to shorten the length of anything. And if it's the last game of the day, there's no reason to shorten anything either. But anyways, coaching from the sidelines, coaches may offer positive encouragement from the direction of the sideline. Teams are on one side of the field, occupying 1/2 of the sideline. Their fans are on the opposite sideline. Coaches may move about their half of the sideline within their coaching area and may only enter the field when signaled by the referee or during halftime. So again, coaches should not be out on the field providing direction or instruction to their players. You might see that in some very young games, like let's say first or second graders where they don't really know where they're supposed to be running. Players and spectators must remain 3 feet away from the sideline and are not allowed behind either goal line. Again, ideally, all of the field layouts that are out there support enough space for this. In some instances, I'm sure that the fields are going to be drawn, close together where it's kind of crunched for space. But the concept here is that they should not be sitting on the line, on the sideline, on the line. That's kind of an area that you want to maybe make use of as you're running up and down the field. You don't want to trip on anybody standing there or step on anybody or on anybody's things. You can get hurt, they can get hurt. That's kind of what that's about. Substitutions, unlimited substitutions will be allowed with the permission of the referee in the following situations: goals scored, throw-ins in your favor, goal kicks, injuries, and halftime. Substitutes must wait at midfield until signaled by the referee to enter the game. Note, the opposing team may also substitute during a throw-in if the team in possession is also making substitutions. So again, goal scored, everybody's running back, kind of getting back in a position. As players, you're familiar with that. That's maybe a common time for coaches to substitute. Throw-ins in your favor. If it's your throw-in, you can substitute. If it's the other team's throw-in, you can also substitute if they are substituting. Goal kicks. Anybody can substitute on either team's goal kick. The injured player can be substituted out, should be substituted out. I would say that that's all. And then halftime or quarter. Again, this is all at your approval. And, again, this is going to maybe take a little while for some of the newer referees to get accustomed to. And that's where I say maybe have the coach, let the coach know, hey, just let me know if you want to substitute. When you substitute, how do you facilitate a substitution? If people want to write that in the chat, what's the first thing you do when you're acknowledging a substitution? Okay, great. Blow the whistle to stop the game. And then you, wave them in, acknowledge, verbalize. You might say, all right, players come on in. So you wave them in. And then you maybe hold your hand up in the air. Wave them in. Maybe have your hand in the air until everybody that's supposed to come off the field is off. You'd lower your hand and then you blow your whistle to resume the game. So blowing the whistle is kind of the signal that play can resume. In the small fields, grades 1 through 4, more than likely you're probably standing near the person throwing the ball in. That may not be the case in some of the older games. So good. So a start of play. Everybody can still see this on the screen, right? Okay, good. Start of play, the ball must be touched to start play and may not be played again by the kicker until touched by another player. Any number of, so again, if this is grades 5 through 8, grades 1 through 4, there's going to be a lot of exceptions, a lot of differences. But if on a kickoff, if a player kicks it twice in a row, what's the proper restart? Is it, I'll give you a choice. Is it do over? Is it retake the kick? Is it indirect free kick for the other team? If the person kicking off kicks it twice before another player touches it, is it do over for the team that kicked off, or is it indirect free kick for the other team? Now, here's an example of where you need to know the rules much better as an official than as a player. So the correct answer is indirect for the other team. And kind of the thing to keep in mind is that's generally what's going to happen if the ball was considered in play. Do-overs are generally only the restart if the ball was never considered in play. So the situation where, let's say somebody takes a throw in and the ball never went into play, it's a do-over because it never went into play. Good news is there are no, so maybe what I want to say, there are no throw-ins in grades 1 through 4. So that's kind of a, I don't know. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of changes. We're going to get through these. These are the rules that, let's say, hopefully everybody knows pretty well. And then for grades 1 through 4, we're going to look at that and then say, this is how things are different. And they should be a lot easier for everybody involved. It'll just be different, so that'll make it challenging. So start of play. Ball must be touched to start play and may not be played again by the kicker until touched by another player. Any number of offensive players are allowed in the center circle for the start of play. Generally, it's only 2. The kicker and 1 other, most likely. They're going to do a short pass. Defensive players may not enter the center circle. They have to stay on the outside until the ball has been touched by an offensive player. A ball replayed by the kicker results in an indirect free kick. So here we are. From the spot it was replayed. If the ball does not move forward, sideways, or backward, the game is restarted. So again, the only way that it would be a do-over or restart would be if the ball did not move. So again, the or backwards, that was added a couple years ago. It used to always need to go forward or sideways. So pass back to the goalkeeper. A ball played back to the goalkeeper intentionally by the defending team may not be handled by the goalkeeper. If they do, it's an indirect free kick from the spot that the ball was touched. If the ball is touched within the goal area, the ball will be placed on top of the goal area, directly parallel to the spot of the foul. Okay, so now we have to think, right? What is that? What does all that mean? The goalkeeper may play a ball that has been passed back as any other player, but may not use his or her hands. So it's completely fine to treat your goalkeeper as one of your teammates and pass them the ball. And they can play it. They just cannot, if it's intentionally played to them, they cannot pick it up with their hands. One of the things is kick or dribble in. Oh, yeah. So that's getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. So just concentrate on this. So again, what's a little bit different is the way that this was written for fall was that it was only if it was intentionally passed back with the foot. After taking my USSF class, that's, I think, somewhat recently changed. It's any intentional pass back. If you were to head the ball back to your goalkeeper, if you were to knee it or chest it back to your goalkeeper, any play back to the foot, or any play back to the keeper intentionally, they cannot pick it up with their hands. I think a good change. Will take some of the confusion out. Again, it's not intentional if a defender is trying to clear the ball and it's shanked and the goalkeeper runs and goes to go get it. That's not an intentional pass back. And then again, if it's within the goal area, within that 6 yards, there's no indirect free kick that's taken inside of there. It always gets brought back out to the top of that small goal area. All right, so heading is only allowed in the 7th and 8th grade games. If a player intentionally heads a ball in a game, and again, intentionally, so if somebody throws the ball in and hits them on top of the head, they're not looking, that's not a stoppage. An indirect free kick will be awarded to the opposing team from the spot of the offense. Grades 5 through 8 can head the ball in practice. Again, this is for coaches, but should be limited no more than 30 minutes, 15 to 20 headers per player per week. Okay, so only heading in the 7th and 8th grade division. That changed a few years back. It was kind of a result of just some concussion awareness. And I think in select, it's maybe you have to be U11 or U12 to be able to do that. So no slide tackling. Slide tackling is only allowed in the 7th and 8th grade games. If done in younger games, this kind of goes through what would be done, but basically just coach them out on the field. Hey, stay on your feet. You're not allowed to slide tackle. Throw-ins. When the whole of the ball passes over a touchline, so a sideline, either on the ground or in the air, it shall be thrown in from the point where it crossed the line by a player on the team not touching the ball last. So if blue kicks the ball out, it's red team's throw in, wherever it went out. And I don't know if it gets into it here, but it needs to completely cross the line. And it can be on the ground or in the air. So if the ball is over the line, but it's still in the air, it hasn't touched the ground on the opposite side of the line, it's still out. It doesn't have to touch the ground outside of the line. Again, if the ball is rolling on the line, it's still in. So the thrower must face the field of play, and when delivering the ball, must have both feet on the ground, either on or behind the touch line. The thrower shall use both hands and shall deliver the ball from behind and over the head. Forward. Person taking the throw-in may not touch the ball until it's touched another player. So you cannot throw the ball into yourself. A ball replayed by the thrower results in an indirect free kick. So it's because the ball was in play. That's why that from the spot where the ball was touched. Failure to correctly execute a throw-in will result in the ball being awarded to the opposing team at the point where the previous throw-in was attempted. So no second chance on throw-ins. And again, we'll get to the abbreviations, but throw-ins are only for grades 5 through 8. Goal kick, when the whole of the ball, the entirety of the ball, passes over the goal line outside the goalposts, either in the air or on the ground last touched by the attacking team, right? So blue is attacking, blue takes a shot on goal, misses, goes beyond the end line, beyond the goal line, outside of the goal. It's going to be red team's goal kick, right? Oftentimes, whatever team touched the ball last, it's the other team's ball when it goes out. That's just easy. The ball may be kicked from any spot within the goal area. So again, in the younger age groups, maybe many of you, what you were taught was whatever side it went out on, put it on that corner of the goal area. But it can be with any place within the goal area. It doesn't need to be on the line, just on the line or within. The ball is considered in play when it is kicked and moved. So here's something that changed a couple of years ago. In grades 5 through 8, in grades 5 through 8, the team not taking the goal kick must remain outside the penalty area until the ball is in play. Goals may be scored directly from a goal kick. All right. So I gave you some bad information a little bit earlier. And if nobody remembers it, it's fine. The rule is what was changed, the ball is considered in play when it is kicked and moves. Okay. So that you do not have to wait. The opposing team does not have to wait for the ball to clear the penalty area. In grades 5 through 8, it's going to be relatively rare that the ball doesn't clear the penalty area. Could happen. But the kicker, let's say the goalkeeper takes the goal kick, they tap it to one of their defenders, the defender can go and start dribbling the ball. Or they can touch it and they can kind of clear it out. That's all fine. And we're just saying that the team taking the goal kick must remain outside the team not taking the goal kick must remain outside the penalty area until the ball is in play. Goals may be scored directly from a goal kick. Very unlikely. Okay. Keeper possession. Another important topic. A keeper holding the ball in his/her penalty area has 6 seconds to put the ball in play. I had revised it from 5. I learned I had it wrong. Maybe it was 5 at one point, but has 6 seconds to put the ball in play. During this time, they are free to move anywhere within the penalty area. Once the keeper places the ball on the ground, the keeper may not pick it up until played by another player. The keeper cannot be charged in the penalty area. So again, that 6-second rule, kind of use common sense. You're not looking to trap anybody necessarily. If you see that the goalkeeper is sitting there sort of thinking about it, you just encourage them. Hey, keeper, let's get the ball back in play. Right? If they're holding on to it and it's like forever and okay, well then let's call it. And it would be, I believe it would be indirect free kick. But again, the number of times I've seen this is very rare. Like I said, don't be looking to trap them. We're looking more to, encourage them that the play needs to continue as a referee. Corner kick, when the whole of the ball passes over the goal line, outside the goalposts, either in the air or on the ground when last touched by the defending team. So again, red shoots the ball on goal, hits off of a blue player and goes out, beyond the end line. So now it went out on blue, it's red team's ball. It's going to be a corner kick. The ball will be kicked from the quarter circle at the corner nearest the spot the ball left play. So this is where goal kicks and corner kicks are different. Goal kick, doesn't matter which side it went out on. You can put the ball anywhere inside the goal area. Either the left side, the right, whichever side, or in the middle. Corner kick, wherever the ball goes out, whichever side, that's the side the corner kick needs to be taken from. So the player does not have a choice which side they can run the ball over to. Whichever side it went out on, that's the side the corner kick gets taken from. If there's a flag out there, the corner marker may not be moved. Defending players must remain 10 yards on full regulation size field, 8 yards for grades 5 through 6 from the corner position until the ball is played. Goals may be scored directly from such a kick. Okay. Okay. Now offsides. A tough one. Offside. A player is in an offside position. So the first thing we need to consider is the player in an offside position? Not are they offsides, called offsides, just are they in an offside position? If they're nearer to their opponent's goal line than the ball, so they're in front of the ball, that's also key. Unless the player is in their own half of the field. So you can only be considered in an offside position if you're in the attacking side of the field. If you're on your own defensive half, you cannot be considered in an offside position. It doesn't matter where the defense is. So you cannot not be in an offside position if you're on your own half of the field. The player is not nearer the opponent's goal line than at least 2 opponents. So everybody here is behind the second to last defender. So if there's the goalkeeper is 1, usually, If there is one other defender that's closer to their goal than what you are, you're not offsides. If you're behind that last person, then you are in an offside position if you're in the attacking half. The player is, so again, you are not in an offside position if the player is behind the ball, either dribbling it themselves. So if you're the one dribbling the ball and you dribble past the second to last defender, you're not offsides. You've dribbled it past there, that's fine. Or behind a teammate that has the ball. So as long as you're behind the ball, you're okay. A player shall be declared offside if at the moment the ball is played to them by a teammate, so that's key, by a teammate, and the player is in an offside position. So again, your teammate, fifth grade and above is when offsides first applies. So again, you're in the attacking half, your teammate's in the attacking half, and the teammate is behind the second to last defender, beyond them, closer to the goal, and you have the ball and you pass it to them while they're there, there would be called for offsides. If at the time of the pass. So a player shall not be declared offside merely because the player is in an offside position. Or if the player receives a ball directly from a goal kick, corner kick, or throw-in. So let's think about that. No offsides on goal kicks. No offsides on corner kicks. So the corner kick one is easy to think, because the defensive alignment of the team defending a corner kick, they generally have a player on each pole of the goal, on each post. If offsides were something that could occur, they might decide to have their players pulled back. So the player taking the kick would have nobody to kick it to, and the goalie would come and grab it every time. So that's one way that kind of helps me kind of remember that one. Just the defensive posture strategy that teams usually take. And then throw-ins. You cannot be offside on a throw-in. So that's a good opportunity to try to run past the defense and throw it. But the offside penalty results in an indirect free kick at the spot of the offside player. And all of this is when the ball is played. It's not where it is when the player receives the ball. And is that in here? Yeah, so here. If at the moment the ball is played to them by a teammate. So all of this it's not where the player, so again, a player can be in an onside position. The ball gets played behind the defense and the teammate runs onto it. They're not offsides if they were, it's where everybody is when the ball is kicked or played, not when the player receives the ball. Any questions on that? That's maybe the most difficult one. Okay, good. You'll keep track of scores on your game cards, but there's you don't have to worry about if the game ends in a tie. That's not your concern in league play. Fouls and misconduct. A foul committed off the field of play is penalized with a direct free kick on the boundary line nearest the foul. So that was, I think, a relatively recent change. That's going to be pretty rare if that were to happen. But otherwise, the following fouls and misconduct will result in a free kick taken at the spot of the foul if committed outside the penalty area. So don't worry about inside the penalty area. So a direct free kick, those are the more serious ones. And I've had this explained to me. These are the ING fouls. kicking, tripping, jumping, charging, striking, pushing, tackling, holding. So that's one way to think of it. You ask, why is it not written here like that? I don't know. But again, those are, I've heard it said, the ing vowels. Kicking, tripping, jumping, charging, striking, pushing, tackling, holding. An opponent. That's the other key piece. It's an opponent. You'd probably, if it was done, a teammate to a teammate, maybe that's a card situation. Indirect free kick. These are more minor or technical infractions. The goalkeeper holding the ball for more than 6 seconds. That was referenced earlier. Here's the result, indirect free kick. Goalkeeper picks the ball up after releasing it before another player touches it. So if let's say they don't have a very good punt and it kind of shanks off the side of their foot, or they kind of miss it, they cannot pick it back up with their hands. That's probably the most frequent common occurrence of that. Or if they roll it, or something, it slips out of their hand, they cannot pick it back up. That's different. If a goalkeeper were to bounce the ball, that's still considered in their possession. A goalkeeper touches the ball with their hands on an intentional pass back from a teammate. So we talked about this scenario. Doesn't matter how it's passed back. If it is, they cannot pick it up. The goalkeeper touches the ball with their hands when received directly from a teammate's throw-in. So you cannot throw the ball into a goalkeeper and have them pick it up with their hands. So all of these are goalkeeper related, the first 4. Otherwise, we have, I missed a couple at the bottom. Otherwise, we have dangerous play. And again, what are 2 examples of dangerous play? If you know it, write it in the chat. Okay, high kick is one. And the other one is, yes, being on the ground and kicking at the ball. Those are kind of two common ones. Dangerous play. Obstruction or impeding. So that's kind of blocking. Blocking somebody from getting the ball if you're not within a step of the ball. Preventing the goalkeeper from releasing the ball with their hands. So that's something where you're not giving the goalkeeper enough space. Another foul that would result in a direct free kick if you were spitting at an opponent. That would also, I think, end up being a card that's listed below. And a handball is also results in direct free kick. And again, the goalkeeper can pick it up with their hands, of course. Any other offense, so for indirect free kick, any other offense not previously mentioned for which play is stopped. And then offside, the restart for that is indirect free kick. Placement of the ball is placed at the spot of the foul and must be stationary prior to the kick. Opposing players must remain at least 10 yards from the ball until it is kicked. The ball is in play when it is touched. And I guess depending on maybe just how as a referee, how would you measure out 10 yards? If a team asks for 10 yards or you want to make sure that the opposing team is that far away, how do you go about doing that? Okay, I like that, Colin. Take 10 big steps. Depending on how tall you are, I take 10 big steps, and that's pretty close. And they have to be kind of exaggerated steps. So that's generally what it is. And you can kind of get a gauge if you know how long a foot is, and how big your step is. That's about how far it would be. All right, so fouls committed within the penalty area, committed by the attacking team, placement at the spot of the foul, same as the regular field of play. So again, if it's in the penalty area, committed by the attacking team. If it's committed by the defending team, then the ball placement is determined by the severity and location. So if it results in a direct free kick, then it's a penalty kick. So again, tripping, pushing, those are probably the two most common ones that result in penalty kicks, tripping and pushing. As a player, as you're out there on the field, I would say that probably the two most common ones. A foul committed by the defending team resulting in an indirect free kick will be taken from the spot of the foul, except if it's within the goal area, that small rectangle. Anything committed inside of there that's indirect free kick will be placed on the point of the goal line adjacent to the spot of the foul. Getting to that pushing question in a bit. A goal may be scored. Well, I can address it here. So pushing. Well, I'm sharing my screen, so I'll come back to that. Don't let me forget. So direct free kick, a goal may be scored directly from the kick. Doesn't need to touch any other player. Indirect free kick, a goal cannot be scored unless played by or touched by another player. Penalty kick. We talked about that already. All players except the goalkeeper and the kicker must remain outside the marked penalty area behind the ball until the ball has been kicked. The goalkeeper must keep at least 1 foot on the goal line prior to the kick. They are also allowed to move from side to side prior to the kick. If the goalkeeper moves both feet off the goal line prior to the kick will be retaken if a goal was not scored. If a ball is in play and the players may enter, the ball is in play and players may enter the penalty area when the ball is touched. The kicker may not replay the ball until it has been touched by another player. So this is an important one. If the player takes the penalty kick and hits off the crossbar, bounces back to them, they're not allowed to touch it first. Somebody else has to touch it. If the goalkeeper saves the ball, that's the other player that's touched it, then they can go get it and play it again. Red and yellow cards. I'll maybe let everybody read through this. Again, this is grades 1 through 4 do not use red and yellow cards. So I'll let people read through this. We're running a little short on time. And then, again, just be instructional. Be kind of a teacher out there, if you will, to some of those younger kids especially. Serious injuries and concussions, record the player number and let me know about that. Rescheduling, this is for coaches. More recent changes to rules. The winner of the coin toss can choose which goal to defend or the kickoff. Used to always be which goal to defend. Attacking team players must remain 1 yard away from a defensive team's player wall. So it used to be that the team taking the kick could be intermixed right in the wall. They have to be at least 1 yard away. Players can exit the field at the boundary nearest to them when substituted off, so they don't have to run all the way across to where the team is substituting. Handballs. To be considered a handball, the ball must touch the arm hand while it is away from the body, unless the arm hand is used to control the ball. Away from the body unless the arm hand. That doesn't read quite right. Oh, yeah, I see. So again, handball, if your hand is out and about, kind of away from it's, out, not against your side, and it hits your arm, and the ball is, so the exception of that is if the ball is in very close proximity. So let's say you're standing right next to a player, your arm is kind of hanging down or out, and they blast the ball, they kick it right up into your arm. That should not be, that's incidental. It should not be called a handball. But if you're, let's say, 15 yards away, 20 yards away, and your hand is out away from your body and the ball hits it, that's a handball. So again, if it's up against your body, let's see. Yeah. So drop balls. Any drop ball inside the penalty area is dropped for the goalkeeper. Any other drop balls are given to the team that touched the ball last at the spot of the last touch. So again, drop balls are not used to determine possession between two different teams. So it's not a red and a blue player and then a drop ball between them. It's only a drop ball for one team, if that were to happen. So I think drop balls have, that was more of a safety thing from my understanding. Everybody else has to be 5 yards away. A drop ball may be awarded if the ball hits an official and goes into the goal or causes a change of possession. That would be another situation. Other changes that I recently learned of. The part of the arm, so again, handball, the part of the arm just below the bottom of the armpit to the fingertips is eligible for a handball. This means the shoulder is not eligible. So this part of the shoulder would not be considered handball. And I believe this rule was probably like back in summer is when that one I think was first put in play. So the bottom of the armpit. So it's if the ball is hitting off the shoulder anywhere around here, that's okay. Note the shoulder is then included when determining offside. So that's the other aspect. The arm, if you're reaching forward for off, beyond the player, signaling, hey, pass it to me, your fingertips cannot be what cause you to be offside. Or your arm cannot. A teammate intentionally passing the ball back to their goalkeeper with any part of their body will result in an indirect free kick if the goalkeeper touches it with their hands. So again, this is the clarification that anyway, it's intentionally passed back. Okay, so unless there are questions, now I'm going to share my screen and we'll go to the grades 1 through 4 rules. So those are the rules kind of that everybody knows. So for many of you on the call where this is your first year, your second year, these are the rules that you're going to need to know. So everything there, unless it's mentioned here. So here we go. And hopefully it'll seem really weird, but hopefully it's going to help. All right, can everybody see it? Grades 1 through 4, rule modifications and clarifications. Okay, good. First, one referee is used. I had mentioned that already. Small fields, it's only 3v3 to 5v5. Goalkeeper must wear a different color shirt penny than both teams. So this isn't anything special. It's just kind of for those coaches to help them. The goalkeeper can use their hands inside their goal area. It's marked by an arc. So kind of a semicircle around the goal. There's not a separate goal area and a separate penalty area. It's just one. The goalkeeper is not allowed to punt the ball. They can throw, dribble, or pass it. That's what they can do. They cannot punt it. The fields are short, so they might be kicking it to the other end of the field. Note, this is different from fall, or I guess a clarification from what there was in fall based on some questions and confusion. The opposing team does not have to retreat to the center line when the goalkeeper touches the ball with their feet or picks it up with their hands. Okay. We'll get to what happens on goal kicks, but when the goalkeeper collects the ball, whether they play it with their feet or whether they pick it up, the opposing team does not need to retreat. So it's the same as what you would see in grades 5 through 8 is the bottom line there. Okay, the goalkeeper may move about the field as any other player. They do not have to stay in front of the goal. Again, this is no different than grades 5 through 8. Just general, it's maybe a little bit different. Grades 5 through 8, if you're designated the goalkeeper, you're probably staying by the goal inside the penalty area. But in this grades 1 through 4 format, grades maybe 1 and 2, when the players are maybe a wide variety of skill levels, it's perfectly fine for that goalkeeper to be running all over the field and playing just as any other field player. That's one of the strategies that some teams use. You can't get scored on if the other team doesn't even have it on your half, sort of a thing. But if there would be a breakaway, if the team is doing that and the other team takes a shot from further away, they'd have to hurry up and get back. I should write down. I don't know if I think we say somewhere you have to be on the attacking side of the field to score a goal. So I'm going to write that down. All right. So when the ball goes out on the sideline, it's either a dribble or a pass restart. There are no throw-ins in grades 1 through 4. Just sort of the thought there is that the decision that players most often have to make is, do I dribble or do I pass? And often enough, the kid would take a long time to make their body do a throw-in. So just getting away from that, getting away from the here's a second try at it. It's dribble or pass restart. No throw-ins. Goal kicks and corner kicks. Here again, it's dribble or pass. Dribble or pass. So it's kind of weird. On a corner kick, a player could dribble it in. A throw-in, they can dribble it in. What would be considered a throw-in? They could dribble it in or just pass it in. They could kick it in. The referee would not need to place the ball down. The player could do that. The only requirement is that the ball is stopped. A player cannot, and this was experienced as well, a player cannot get the ball, like roll it into the field of play and start running after it. Right? So that sort of thing has happened. So it has to be stationary, just as all of you are aware, like on goal kicks in your games, the ball has to be stopped before it can be played. So on a goal kick, the ball is placed at the top of the goal arc. So again, it's just a 4-yard or a 5-yard arc around the goal. So if any people have played like 3-on-3 tournaments, it's kind of that concept, but the area is not protected. The defending team retreats to the center line and may pressure as soon as the ball is touched and moved. So again, if it's a goal kick, the team that was attacking, they have to move back to the center line. That should be, again, there's going to be some new players. It should be kind of at coach direction. It should be at referee direction. So if the team's not moving back, as the referee, say, hey, blue team, kind of move on back to the center line. If the red team taking the goal kick doesn't wait, so be it. If they don't want to wait for the other team to get back to the center line, they can play if they want. So the defending team retreats to the center line and may pressure. They can kind of start pressuring the team again as soon as the ball is touched and moves. Teams alternate taking the kickoff each quarter. They switch sides at halftime. So again, in grades 5 through 8, switch sides at halftime. Here, switch sides at halftime. That's the same. You just alternate the kickoff every quarter. After a goal is scored, the kickoff is at the center line. That's not any different than grades 5 through 8. That's the same. Kickoffs can be dribbled or passed for a restart. So here's the difference again. So we have what would normally be considered throw-ins. So from the sideline, you can dribble or pass in. From the corner kicks, goal kicks, and kickoffs, can dribble or pass in. And it's that decision. Do I dribble or do I pass? So again, now here's a clarification. When dribbling a restart, if it's a kickoff, a goal kick, a corner kick, or from the sideline, the ball cannot be shot and scored maybe I don't know if shot is good terminology, cannot shoot the ball and score without touching another player first. Okay, a player could dribble and score without passing or without the ball touching another player. So you can't be taking a kickoff and just shooting the ball at the goal and scoring. You can't be on the sideline shooting the ball at the goal and scoring. Can't be taking a corner kick, shooting the ball and scoring. If, let's see, so if a player kicks the ball in the goal from inside the goal arc, yes, that is a goal. So that arc is not a protected area. And a couple years ago it was. So this is different now that we have goalkeepers. So that's probably the big difference. We have goalkeepers, so it's not protected. So again, this is important. This is a clarification from the fall season. They just can't shoot from those restarts and have it go right into the goal. It has to touch another player. They could dribble it or they could pass it. And that kind of is in line with, it's consistent with, there are no direct free kicks. Only indirect free kicks. Penalty kicks do not apply. So this should make it easier on the officials out there. You just have to know if something's a foul or not. You don't have to worry about whether it results in a direct free kick or an indirect free kick. It's good to know it and learn it, but for grades 1 through 4, it's going to be an indirect free kick. Indirect free kicks resulting from fouls, penalties cannot be dribbled. So here's the exception. From the sideline, corner kicks, goal kicks, kickoffs, those can be dribbled. If it's a kick for a team where it was a foul, a handball, a trip, those cannot be dribbled. Those have to be passed. Opposing players must stand a minimum of 4 yards from the spot of a restart in grades 1 through 2 and 5 yards in grades 3 through 4. So again, that matches the distance of the arc. Indirect free kicks are placed at the spot of the foul, wherever it occurred. Unless it's, let's say, within that goal arc, then put it out on the top of it. Writing that down. And that would be consistent with if it happens in the goal area on a larger size field. All right, so they have to be at least, so again, if it's a play in from the sideline, the opposing team has to be either 4 or 5 yards away in grades 1 through 4. So to give them some space, they can't stand right next to them. And again, this is something that the distance, you know, many of you are older, don't make the defensive team request. Don't make the offensive player request that the defense move back. You as the referee help encourage that to get them in that mindset that, hey, you know what? It's the other team's kick. I have to back up. Either team can substitute at any stoppage, any goal kick, corner kick, pass in, goal scored, etc. So again, and it doesn't matter whose corner kick it is, doesn't matter whose like kick in from the side it is. Note, no substitutions are allowed on restarts after fouls unless substituting an injured player. So we can't, if there's a trip and a team's gonna hurry up and take the kick and go, you can't substitute on that. Offside penalties do not apply to grades 1 through 4. So that makes things a little bit easier too. So everything's indirect, there's no offsides. You don't have to worry about throw-ins. Most everything is a dribble or pass in except on the fouls. Red and yellow cards are not used. So that's another thing you don't have to worry about. And then last, the competitiveness rule applies when a 3-goal differential is reached. Losing team may add 1 player. So if red team is winning 3-0, blue team can add a player. So then it's, let's say it's 3 players on 4. The idea behind this is we want to keep games close if possible. A competitive close game is a more fun game for everybody. Losing team may add one player. The player is removed if the goal differential is less than 3. So 3-0, team that's losing adds 1. If it's 3-1, then they remove that player. If it's 4-1, add them back. If it's 7-4, they can add 1. Any questions on this stuff? So the 2 that I wrote down that I need to maybe clarify are, do they have to be on the attacking side of the field to score a goal? So could they shoot it back from the defense, and score a goal? And does the indirect free kick inside of the goal arc need to be on the arc? I would say that one does. So the only one is like scoring. So any questions on these rules? Again, they're very different, but they're in place to help make the game maybe a little bit simpler for those players. It helps the referees out too, but for those players, and really focus on the decision, dribble or pass. Because at the end of the day, as players develop, that's the decision they're most often faced with when attacking out on the field. Okay, good. So now I've not forgotten about the pushing, describing that. But I'm going to stop sharing and then share something else. So hopefully, is everybody still awake out there? Take a quick look through. Okay. All right. So now, let's see. I'm gonna share my screen, if I can find it. All right. So okay. So can everybody see my screen now? So as the season went along last fall, I sent out some reminder emails to the referee group. And so here are some things, like based on what was happening and what was kind of the most important, or maybe what people were forgetting. So here's reminders. So please submit the game scores for any past week. So submit game scores, before the weekend is over. Hopefully it's the same day that you do it. I'll send you information about where to do that. That's on the website. Just an easy Google form. Whistleblowing technique, not like you blow up a balloon with your mouth wide open. A short, quick blow with the mouth closing tighter as you do it. Practice. If it isn't working, your technique isn't right. Fouls. Make sure to call pushing when it occurs. If the player moves their opponent off the spot location with their arm extended away from their body, a push should be called. So at its simplest level, if they have their arm outstretched, extended, away from their body, and they're moving a player off of wherever they're running or standing, call a push. Even if a player has their arms in, they cannot run into a player and knock them off their spot on the field. That should be called a push as well. A player does not have to fall down for a push to be called. Coaches have said this is not being called consistently. So again, it's pretty difficult. It's challenging. Making these calls is always different. As a referee, it seems harder to do. It seems like, did I really see that as a referee than if you're a player or a coach? So if players are running side by side with elbows, if they're elbowing each other, then I would say we should maybe call something there. I think that's oftentimes, I don't know how it necessarily happens. The younger kids are running and somehow you're running behind somebody and you get caught with like an elbow in the face. Somehow that seems to happen, but again, if they're moving their elbows into the other player, let's say it's a different thing if like both players are kind of doing it, then it's like, okay, who do I call it on? Do I kind of let it, they're kind of going and they're working hard after the ball. But if what I would say is if they're moving the player off of their spot, or if their hand is extended or their elbows are out, and they're kind of doing that, then call a push. On this, especially in these younger age groups, I would recommend erring on the side of calling too much than not at all. Some of the other guidance I give is if you make it an entire game and haven't called a single foul, you probably missed some. I would say it's extremely rare, like almost impossible for there not to have been a foul in the entire game. It just is. So I'm not saying that you should, make sure to call 5 fouls every game or 10 fouls every game, but I guess have that be in mind. So again, the big thing here is if the arm is away from the body, if they're kind of moving the player off of their spot, I think that's generally kind of what it is. So then a few other reminders. Blow your whistle loudly. Make sure the players listen to your call when you blow the whistle. If they don't, blow it again more loudly. It's recommended that you blow your whistle every time the ball goes out. Anytime a foul is called, a goal is scored, or you stop play for a substitution. I'll get to that one. So get in the habit of blowing your whistle. You don't need to blow your whistle to restart play every time. You don't need to blow your whistle to signal the start of a goal kick or the start of a corner kick. You just, let the player know, go ahead. So again, help the kids in grades 1 through 4 as needed. You may need to get the ball when it goes out or show them where to place the ball. Positioning. Grades 1 through 4 as a single official, you should be in the field, not just on a sideline. Grades 5 through 8 with 2 officials, be diagonal from your partner. You have the side of the field to your right while facing the field to play. And it should be all the way down to the end line and all the way up to the center line. Even encourage you as you're maybe getting used to it, go a little bit on the other half. Center line is recommended because that's the earliest spot that offsides, somebody can be in an offside position and you want to be able to see that. Depending on the nature of the game, you may move up a little bit closer so that you can actually see and help out your referee partner. But kind of the guideline there is be in a position where you can see what's happening. Teams are allowed to substitute players only if you allow it. So don't let, and again, this is probably more of a grades 1 through 4 thing, where coaches say that where the instructions are, you can substitute basically at most of the stoppages. They still need to get your permission, or you still need to acknowledge it. So make sure that that is what is occurring. Otherwise, just say, hey, coach, just make sure that I acknowledge the substitution. So watch for teams that want to substitute, blow your whistle, call subs, hold your hand up in the air until all substitute players come off the field, and then blow your whistle to signal play can resume. So we had talked about that already. Keep track of scores on your game cards and report scores after your game. So that was mentioned above. Only 1 additional player is added in grades 1 through 4 after a 3-goal advantage is achieved. So it's not like, it's not as if a team is up by 3, the losing team adds 1, they're up by 4, you add another player. It's only 1. I would say for grades 1 through 4, can we ask spectators for line judges? I would say ideally not. Hopefully the lines are good, good enough that you can see, and if you're moving within the field of play. But hopefully not there. That said, I guess, common sense. Yeah, I would not recommend probably asking who it went out on either. So let's see. As far as your field locations, I'll do the referee assigning. So based on your referee availability, I'll talk about that kind of at the end here. We're almost done, just wrapping up. As far as game locations, in the online for the game schedule, there'll be a place where you can see like where the Cedar Grove Belgium fields are at, where the Kohler fields at, where the and it'll be listed on the games that you have. But that's maybe something we can do a little bit better on, just having a more consolidated document for everybody to reference. Opposing teams need to retreat to the center line for goal kicks. They do not need to do this when the goalkeeper stops the ball and picks it up with their hands. This is something that we talked about already. Keep time with a watch, not a phone. Let me know if you have any issues with coaches or fans. If you missed the training or want a refresher, here's a link. So in a couple days from now, we'll have this session available so you can rewatch all of it or parts of it. Again, the season's first game isn't until another month. So I encourage everybody to study a little bit after the fact, and I'll send out an email kind of triggering that for everybody. Like I said, the documents that I showed tonight, the ones online need to be refreshed online. So the ones out there don't have a couple of the notes that I went over tonight. Let's see. Okay, and then availability. We'll go through that. The season start, I mentioned that, April 16th through June 4th. The Community League tournament is April 29th through May 1st. Game assignments will generally come out Monday morning before the next Saturday of games. Please reply to confirm when that happens. And then please recruit some of your friends if they want to officiate. But right now, so again, very quickly, let me just make sure I didn't forget anything. Maybe one other note. I'll stop sharing my screen here. So one other note is, if as a referee, you make a mistake. So let's say you say that it's red throw-in, but it's really blue. If it's before the team puts the ball back in play, you can correct yourself. So if you say red and you meant to say blue, say, oh no, I meant blue throw-in. That's totally fine. You have up until the point that the ball is put back into play to correct your call. Okay. Otherwise, thank you everybody for attending tonight. Really appreciate you showing an interest in being a referee, continuing as a referee to help out in our community league. Really next steps. Like I said, in a couple days, this will be made available online on the website. I will add all of your email addresses to my referee email group, and I will send out a summary with links to these documents that I shared tonight. So where they are on the website. So I'll be able to, share that with you so you kind of know where to go. And then I will also ask you to submit your availability when you're available to referee. And for some of you, you're maybe playing in the community league, right? For any 7th or 8th graders that are playing in the community league, you won't know your availability until that league schedule comes out. So it's fine to wait and submit it until that comes out. It will probably be another 2 or 3 weeks, probably the week before games. So as soon as it comes out, I will send an email out to this referee group saying, hey, the schedules are out. You may hear from me before you hear from your coaches. So go out, take a look at it right away, and then submit your availability. let's see. So, and then as far as like shirts and whistles, that'll also be something I put in there when I have a defined date to pick those things up. It will probably, for many people, I think spring break, school is out next week, so it'll probably be the week after. So it'll probably be the first week of April that I have a pickup date for those items. And yeah, so I'll send an email. Email is my primary means of communication with all of you. So make sure that the email address that you give me is one that's checked on a daily basis. So if your email address is not the best, if one of your parents is a better, or if you want to give me your email address and your parents, that's fine. You know, I can have both of them in there. That way you don't miss any updates. Like I said, especially once the season gets going, if I send something out, I'm going to really appreciate a response back soon, letting me know if you can work your assigned games or if you cannot. That way I'm able to look for, you know, other people to fill in those games. So I'm just going to share maybe real quick the, so I'll do the assigning for most of the communities. I will pass anybody from, let's say, when you submit your availability, I'll send your information over to the Elkhart assigner and the Manitowoc assigner. So they will have that. We'll just collect all of it, you know, on the Lakeshore United website. But I can share my screen and just kind of give you a brief, I realize we're a minute past, but I can give you a brief look at kind of the website here. All right, so I'll share my screen and I can go over it. So yes, different grades do get different pay. So I will share that. I have that handy. There, I found it. Okay, I'll share my screen for that one. Bear with me. So again, this is something that I'll keep track of for everybody. Everybody is more than welcome to keep track of it on their own as well. So there's not a pay sheet for you to submit, but grades 1 through 4, if everybody can see this, we're down in this section. After tonight's training, all of you are considered club trained. If you have your select USSF level 8 license, there's a premium that you get paid, a bump up in pay. And this is still available if people want to take that class. But grades 1 through 4, it's $10 a game. The games are basically 45 minutes. Grades 3 through 4, so if you have that extra certification, it's $12. Grades 3 through 4, $14. And again, those are 4 10-minute quarters, so those are 45 minutes as well. If you have your USSF license, it's $16. Grades 5 through 6, those are 30-minute halves, $16 and $20. Grades 7 and 8, $20 and $25, $24 rather. So that's the pay rate. If in grades 5 through 8, if all of a sudden your referee partner is a no-show and you end up working that game by yourself, you get time and a half basically. So if it was 20 for 7 and 8, you'd get 30 for that. And in that situation, you generally end up asking somebody from the other team, you know, the coaches to maybe watch one sideline for you, or if they've got a club linesman that they can help run a sideline for you, that's what you do in that situation. So those are the pay rates and ranges. So I'm going to stop sharing there. And then I'm going to share the website real quick. Okay. So if everybody can see my screen, I'm just at lakeshoreunitedfc.org. I'll put this in the reminder email to everybody. Over by resources, there's referees. Out here is referee availability, game reporting, We'll update the training link to be tonight's presentation. So that'll be out there. The pay amounts that I just showed you are out there. The referee checklist that we went over tonight, and then each of the different rules. So all those documents will be out there. They need to be refreshed. So probably in a couple of days, I'll send the email reminder out to everybody. But just as an example, the referee availability. And let me know, do people see the Google form, the referee availability to enter, or they still see the website? Okay, great. So for the form, it's just going to say, hey, please fill out your availability for the spring 2022 season. You just put in your name, put in your address. So why this is important to fill out is because if you live in Cedar Grove, Belgium, and you say that you're willing to work in Cedar Grove, Kohler, Oostburg, Sheboygan, all these places, I'll give a little bit of preference to saying, hey, you know what, you'd probably like to work in Cedar Grove, Belgium first priority. So wherever you're from, you're most likely to want to work in that community first, if possible, even if you said you're willing to work elsewhere. So that's why this is important. Make sure to fill out the community that you live in. So Main Street, Sheboygan, and then put in your phone number. So that serves as a means that I can get a hold of you if need be. So you fill that out. Email address, fill that out. Put in your age. So again, I kind of collected that. That helps me know. So if you're 13, it's like, okay, grades 1 through 2. If you're 20 or older, 18 or older, then it's like, okay, you know what? This is somebody with probably a little bit of experience. I can assign them to some older games. So that's what, where that's important. And then, grade level. So the grade that you're in. So are you in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th, 12th? Are you high school graduate, or I guess done with high school? How many years have you played soccer? Okay. How many years have you been a referee? So again, none. This kind of gives me a gauge as to what level of games I can put you on. Are you USSF certified? So yes, no, I don't know. You would have taken a 16-hour class if you are. And then which locations are you willing to work? So you can check as many as you want. And all this comes to me. I'm able to pull everything together in a spreadsheet and able to assign week to week pretty easily. And then here it says, indicate for each of the games, the times that you're available to work. So again, it gives you an example. You're available 9 to 10 and 3 to 4. Or, you end up saying, you know what, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's when you're available here. Here it's going to be 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. And you just go through like that. That's how you submit your availability. Do that each weekend. Is there a question? No. The community soccer tournament, that's right now anticipated to be a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday, much longer time frames. So please include, if you say you're available 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., or if you just say all day, I won't have you work every single hour of the day. I'll give you a break in there at some point. So you might do 3-4 games, take a break an hour or two, and then work 3-4 more games, that sort of a thing. And then any particular requests. You want to work with a particular person. If you're working grades 1 through 4, you're probably not. You're not going to have a referee partner. But then you submit it, and it's done. And that's all that's to that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So hopefully pretty straightforward. That's what's going to let me know when you're available to work. Again, I'll send out a summary, to everybody, kind of a reminder. Here's where you find all these documents. Here's where you can study. Fill out your availability when if you play in different leagues, you maybe don't know your league schedule yet either. So that's the reason why we're not asking for that yet. Does anybody have any other questions? I guess, otherwise I think I'm to the end of the material for tonight's training. Okay, I'm not seeing any. All right. Again, thank you everybody for attending tonight. I know 3 hours is a little bit of a long session. Hopefully nobody has homework to do yet tonight. But yeah, I appreciate you showing interest in doing this. And I think you'll find it, if you really put some time into this and kind of study the rules and sort of what you're supposed to do to put yourself in a good position, I think you'll enjoy it. And, hopefully find that it's something you want to stick with and do kind of as a part-time job. And another side benefit is for all of you players out there, when you study this stuff, it should help you have a better awareness of the game. Again, the grades 1 through 4 rules are a little bit different, so maybe that's not going to help you so much in playing. But and then one question in the chat: if both are elbowing, how do we determine who to call it on? So if you're feeling like no one player is more at fault than the other, I would at a minimum tell the players to keep their arms down at a minimum, right? So as you notice certain things, or you notice certain things are maybe kind of rough, you say, and all of you have maybe heard this from the officials that have worked your games, it'd be like, hey, take it easy, number, whatever, right? Or arms down, players, there's that sort of encouragement from the referee. So that's maybe the first thing to keep in mind to do. But otherwise, I mean, if they're, you have to pick one, right? And say, okay, who is doing it more? Who is more at fault? Is it that the player who's in possession of the ball, they're holding the other player off? Or is it the player that's trying to steal the ball away from them? Are they really engaging in, trying to move the player off of the ball? And the player with the ball is just trying to kind of hold their own. So really becomes kind of a judgment thing. It's something to make sure to say in your pregame speech, to let them know, hey, everybody, like, keep your arms running. What I say is nobody runs like this, right? Everybody runs like this. Nobody runs normally like this. So it's just something to kind of coach. So again, thank you everybody very much. I appreciate your time tonight.